For years after Li Qingjia passed away, I went to his grave, hoping to talk to him, only to find that it had been moved. Panicked, I rushed home and told my son to call the police. My son sighed and said, "Mom, Dad's grave was never there, he's buried with Aunt Jiuying." He said that during his life, he was forced to marry someone he didn't love, and his only wish was to be buried with the person he loved after death. The Jiuying he spoke of was the white moonlight Li Qingjia had cherished for 30 years. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Li Qingjia abandoned me after my miscarriage to go find Jiuying. I didn't beg anymore. Instead, I quietly booked a train ticket to leave. I stayed at the clinic for 3 days, only checking out when the abdominal pain became bearable. Li Qingjia didn't visit once during those 3 days. I handled everything myself, getting medicine, injections, and paying the bills. He was too busy wiping away Jiuying's tears and comforting her, as she believed she was being forced into marriage. How could he possibly spare a thought for me? Back home, I was packing my bags when Li Qingjia walked in, casting a displeased glance around the house. "I've been gone for 3 days, and you haven't even bothered to tidy up the house. It's a mess." All it was, really, was that the bedding wasn't folded and there were a few clothes lying around. But he's always been like this with me. A slight inconvenience is enough to make him scowl. I glanced at him, not stopping my tidying, and said flatly, I just got out of the hospital." Li Qingjia paused slightly, his human form still, and watched me for a moment, lips pressed together. Then, strangely, he offered to help me organize the closet, his voice softening. "How's your recovery going?" I scoffed, surprised he'd even ask. 3 days ago, when you abandoned me, bleeding, to rush off and find Jiuying, you didn't look back even once." "It's fine." I didn't look up at him, just packed all my clothes into my bag. Li Qingjia noticed what I was doing and casually asked, "Why are you separating our clothes? Take it out and wash it." I clutched my bag, not giving him a single expression the entire time. Clearly, he didn't care what I was going to do either, just nodding casually without another word. After putting the bag in the woodshed, I went back into the house. Li Qingjia was holding a beautifully wrapped bag and waved at me, smiling gently. "Come here. I bought this especially for you when I went to town." I stood still, and instead of getting impatient, he walked towards me with a smile. He tore open the bag, took out the veil, and pinned it to my head. He led me to the mirror, nodding with a smile. "I saw a bride wearing this veil at a wedding, and my first thought was how beautiful you'd look in it, so I bought it for you." Staring at myself in the mirror, wearing the veil, a wave of bitterness washed over me. In my last life, I longed my whole life for Li Qingjia to buy me a veil and suggest we have a proper wedding, but it never happened. This life, simply because I didn't throw a tantrum, he actually fulfilled my wish. I would have been incredibly touched before, but now my heart is as still as water. I took off my veil and said expressionlessly, "I don't like this." Li Qingjia hadn't expected such an attitude from me. His face was filled with disbelief, and he glared at me with furrowed brows. It was as if to say, "You really don't know what's good for you." He said stiffly, "Take it or leave it. I have something to tell you. The factory is going to select you as an advanced worker." "Right, Jiuying is right behind you. You should proactively tell the factory that you don't want this spot and let Jiuying have it." My eyes dulled as I looked at him. No wonder he was buttering me up earlier. He was waiting for this moment. I earned that spot myself. It was a clear and simple statement of my position. I wasn't giving in. He looked at me impatiently, his brows furrowed into a frown. "Jiuying is married and lives in the city now. Only advanced workers are qualified to work there. As a woman, can't you understand her difficulties?" I scoffed. Jiuying was already married, yet he was still going to such lengths to plan things out for her. No wonder he'd been thinking of her for over 30 years. I remembered in my previous life, my advanced worker qualification, which had been confirmed, was suddenly revoked and given to Jiuying instead. Judging by his attitude, I'd say he probably sabotaged my eligibility for the selection process, all for Jiuying's sake. "I can't give it up." I looked away, calmly stating, "I earned this qualification myself." My composed demeanor clearly infuriated Li Qingjia. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, saying, "Wu Li, I honestly don't know how I ended up marrying such a cold-blooded, heartless woman like you. You have no sympathy." He slammed the door shut, the already rickety wooden door groaning and creaking under the force. Li Qingjia went into town again and didn't come back all night. I actually got that news from the ticket vendor. It was obvious who he was going to see. In his previous life, he wouldn't have gone into town after an argument. At most, he'd spend a night in the school office, waiting for me to humbly beg him to come home at the school gate the next morning, or perhaps, I had no idea when he went into town, but in this life, I will never again crush my self-respect to please him. I bought a train ticket to Shenzhen for 5 days later at the station. I wasn't in a hurry to go home, so I wandered around the city for a bit. This was my second time in the city. The last time, Li Qingjia brought me. As I walked down the street, I couldn't help but recall the beginning of my relationship with Li Qingjia. We met through a blind date. He's very straightforward and not very good at sweet-talking girls. After only a few meetings, he asked me, "Want to go for a walk in the city?" As we walked through the city, he pointed out all sorts of interesting things to me. He bought me cotton candy, candied hawthorn, and lots of hair clips. That was the first time I'd ever eaten something so sickeningly sweet. As we walked, he took my hand, and I could hear his heart pounding. He said, "Ollie, I don't know how to be good to a girl. People say if you like her, you should just keep buying her things." I didn't understand what confessing feelings meant back then, so I just kind of stumbled into a relationship with him. If I had known then that Li Qingjia often came to town to pursue Jiuying, perhaps I wouldn't have looked forward to coming to town so much afterward. I had faithfully stayed by Li Qingjia's side for half my life, and only after Jiuying's untimely death from illness did his attitude towards me finally change. I thought my efforts had finally paid off, and my love had at last found its fruition, but it turned out it was all just my wishful thinking. To Li Qingjia, I was just a loveless marriage of convenience, and his heart would forever remain open only to Jiuying. I was walking along the road when a familiar figure in the distance made me stop in my tracks. Li Qingjia was riding a bicycle with Jiuying, who was smiling sweetly and holding onto his back. He looked so happy, until he saw me, and then the smile on his face instantly froze. It was Jiuying who got out of the car first and greeted me. She looked me over playfully and said with a smile, "Ollie, are you here for Qingjia? He just told me you'd definitely come, begging him to come home." Her words were full of mockery and derision. Li Qingjia walked over, pushing his bicycle, a flicker of displeasure in his eyes. "Who sent you? Don't think I'm still the same person I used to be, that I'll just go home with you if you beg me a couple of times." Seeing his smug expression, I kept a straight face and said, "Just passing by." Li Qingjia frowned, clearly not believing me. His tone softened a bit as he walked over to my side. "Alright, I can't be bothered to argue with you, let's just go back." "No need." I pulled away from him and walked to the side. Li Qingjia grabbed my wrist, his expression displeased. Caught completely off guard by his sudden, forceful tug, I accidentally bumped my stomach against a bicycle parked by the roadside. A sharp pain instantly spread through my entire body, making me double over and crouch down. A look of panic flashed across Li Qingjia's face as he quickly knelt down and anxiously asked me, "What's wrong? Did you hit your stomach? Come on, I'll take you to the clinic." I frowned, cold sweat beading on my forehead from the pain, and weakly nodded at him. He helped me onto the bike, and we hadn't gone more than a couple of steps. Jiuying suddenly let out a scream, and Li Qingjia quickly stopped the bike and anxiously asked her what was wrong. Jiuying was slumped on the ground, pointing to her ankle. "I think I twisted my ankle." Li Qingjia dropped his bike and headed towards her. I knew then that he wouldn't be taking me to the clinic anymore, just as I expected. After a brief hesitation, Li Qingjia carefully helped me down. He said apologetically, "Jiuying's situation is more serious. Wait for me to take her, and then I'll come back for you. Just hold on a little longer." He rushed off with Jiuying, never once looking back at me. I wasn't foolish enough to keep waiting for him. I forced myself to get up and went to the pharmacy for painkillers. After I got home, I wasn't in a hurry to leave immediately. I bought my train ticket for the day before the results of the factory's advanced worker selection were announced, even though I knew this factory would be laying people off and collapsing within a few years anyway. But I didn't want the spot that should have been mine to just be handed over to Jiuying. After all, in my previous life, Jiuying used this spot that was rightfully mine to mock me repeatedly and even stole many things I loved. I went to the factory to make it clear that this spot had to be mine. It was what I deserved. On the day the selection results were supposed to be announced, Section Chief Wang sent someone to call me to the factory. Li Qingjia and Jiuying were also there. He hadn't returned since our last trip to the city. He must have been by Jiuying's side day and night these past few days, taking meticulous care of her, too. His gaze fell on me, like 1,000 years of ice pressing down, and he roared in a hushed voice, "Didn't I tell you to withdraw from this selection?" I said airily, "I never agreed to that." Jiuying's eyes were red from crying. Her face crumpled as she tugged at Li Qingjia and said, "Qingjia, I know you'll get me the justice I deserve." Li Qingjia looked at her. His cold gaze instantly softening, his face filled with concern. He handed her a tissue to wipe her eyes, his voice incredibly gentle. "Yes, I'll help you." Section Chief Wang cleared his throat awkwardly, then turned to me and said, "Wu Li, Qingjia mentioned you want to withdraw from the outstanding worker selection. Is that true?" He was a shrewd one, he could tell what had happened just by looking. His words were clearly in my favor. But I shook my head. "I'm not giving up my eligibility." Section Chief Wang nodded, looking helpless as he said to Li Qingjia, "See, Wu Li herself hasn't said she's willing to give up her eligibility for the selection. What anyone else says doesn't count." Jiuying cried even harder, burrowing into Li Qingjia's arms, and sobbed, "Qingjia, you said you'd help me." Li Qingjia pulled her into his arms with one hand, and the sight of his tender affection made my eyes sting. All this time, I'd always thought he was a refined and reserved person. He never showed any intimacy with me in front of others. Every hug, every handhold, he'd resist and push away. Once, when I went to pick him up from work, my finger accidentally brushed against his pinky. He immediately scowled and publicly berated me in front of the neighbors. He said I was ruining his image as a teacher, being thoughtless and inconsiderate of him. In the past, I thought that's just how he was. I forced myself to swallow the hurt from his scolding and convinced myself to understand his temperament. It was only when I saw how wholeheartedly he loved someone else that I fully understood it was simply because he didn't love me. Li Qingjia's voice pulled me out of my memories. He tightened his embrace around the person in his arms, and with a determined, firm tone, he said, "I recall there's a factory rule, isn't there, that advanced workers must also be married?" Section Chief Wang nodded. Stunned, "Yes, there is such a rule." Then, Jiuying turned her face and shot me a provocative look. My fingertips dug deep into my palm, my tongue felt dry, and I knew what he was going to say next. It turned out that in my previous life, he had publicly revealed my scars and secrets to everyone, all for Jiuying. Without a moment's hesitation, he started speaking in front of everyone in the office. "Wu Li and I aren't married. Her parents basically sold her off as a child bride to an old man. And her household registration is still tied up over there." "Enough," my hoarse roar cut him off. Fighting back tears, I stared at him blankly, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. He explicitly promised he would never tell anyone this secret. It was the darkest, most heartbreaking secret of my life, yet he broke his promise to me for Jiuying. My chest ached so much I could barely breathe. So this is what it feels like to be utterly disappointed in someone. I calmed myself down and said to Section Chief Wang, "He's right, I really have nothing to do with him. I don't want the advanced worker title anymore." Facing Li Qingjia again, she said numbly and wearily, "This qualification is for your beloved Jiuying. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other." Everyone in the office was stunned, trying to process the news. Section Chief Wang, standing nearby, gave her a concerned look but remained silent. It wasn't until Jiuying, with tears in her eyes but a smile on her face, spoke up. "Section Chief Wang, does that mean the Advanced Worker Award should go to me now?" Li Qingjia kept his lips pressed together, staring at me without a word, his eyes showing apprehension and regret. I didn't return his gaze, since the words were already out. Whether he felt guilty towards me or not was no longer important. I turned to Section Chief Wang and said, "Chief, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now." By the time Section Chief Wang reacted, I was already out the office door when he suddenly let out a shout. "No, this year's Outstanding Worker Award is definitely yours." I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at Section Chief Wang, who already had tears in his eyes. He continued, "Wu Li, we never knew you had such a difficult life before. Now that we do, we certainly won't look down on you, regardless of whether you're married or not. Your performance at the factory is beyond reproach. Everyone knows what kind of treatment girls raised as child brides endure: indifference, neglect, abuse, every negative word you can think of. I've experienced it. My very birth was nothing more than a financial transaction. I'll never forget that suffocating feeling of despair when I was sent to live with a man 30 years my senior, a man who was paralyzed from the waist down. It took me a whole year, but I finally escaped from there. I ran to a place where no one knew my past, hoping I could finally start anew. I told Li Qingjia this secret because he was the only one who was ever kind to me. Little did I know, he had already exposed my supposedly well-kept secret in my previous life. "No, it's fine, Section Chief Wang. If she wants it, let her have it. Also, my resignation hasn't been approved yet. Please try to expedite it." I had no regrets. As soon as I finished speaking, I wanted to leave. Li Qingjia chased after me again, his expression hesitant. It took him a while to speak. I'm so sorry, Ollie. I only blurted it out because I was desperate. Seeing me not fight back or contend, he actually felt a pang of guilt. I scoffed, finding him ridiculous, and looked at him with cold eyes. Don't apologize. After all, she's the one you love most, isn't she? And it's not like we ever had anything between us. So this is probably how it should be. Li Qingjia's jaw was clenched tight as he whispered, don't say that. I just see her as a very good friend. How can we not be connected? We're husband and wife. Everyone knows that. Just 10 minutes ago, he was distancing himself from me because of Jiuying, and now he's saying things like this to salvage his pathetic sense of guilt. I retorted coldly, you don't need to say all these unnecessary things. Then, turning to Section Chief Wang, I said goodbye, I'm leaving now. Section Chief Wang, Li Qingjia took a few steps forward, chasing after me. Where are you going? None of your business. I brushed him off. Not even bothering to look back, Li Qingjia stood frozen in place for a long time before finally shouting loudly at my retreating back, then come back early, I'll be waiting for you at home. I rushed into the city and squeezed onto the train to Shenzhen. Before I came, I had checked my passbook and saw I had 15,000 yuan. Savings I'd accumulated over nearly 10 years. Once in Shenzhen, I rented a tiny room and settled in. Based on my memories from my past life, the textile factory would lay off workers and collapse within 5 years. What really took off were appliance factories, those making color TVs and refrigerators. Shenzhen has the largest talent pool and is closest to the raw materials. I didn't have enough capital. The money I had wasn't enough to open a breakfast shop in Shenzhen every day. Despite the exhaustion, seeing my money grow makes me feel content. Half a month later, the old village somehow got my current address and sent me a letter. The sender was Zhou Qing, the only person in the village who supported my decision to leave. She and I were in similar situations, unloved by our husbands, constantly worried, waiting for a man to come home. In her letter, she said she really admired my courage to leave, asked what I'd been up to lately, and wished me all the best for the future. I saw in her letter that the model worker spot was still mine. Section Chief Wang not only didn't give the qualification to Jiuying but also said she'd cheated and bribed the judges, revoking her eligibility for 5 years. She also mentioned that Li Qingjia has been really down ever since I left. He just stands outside his door after work every day. When people ask him why he doesn't go inside, he says he's waiting for me to come back. I wrote her back, telling her she could always come find me if things weren't going well. I'm back to my old routine, waking up before dawn and working late into the night, pushing my tricycle to sell breakfast. These days are tiring, but compared to being with Li Qingjia, it's pure bliss. At least I don't have to worry or feel sad about whether Li Qingjia will abandon me. What's wrong? Less than a week later, Zhou Qing showed up at the door of my rented room, carrying a bag. I had just gotten back with my cart and smiled at her. Have you made up your mind? Zhou Qing smiled and helped me push the cart into the yard, softly acknowledging. After that, she rented the room next to mine, and together we sold breakfast, doubling our previous earnings. A month later, we had saved up 40,000 yuan, so we immediately went to the market to inquire about raw materials for electrical appliances. Good things take time. We ran around for several days but couldn't find suitable materials. Zhou Qing did tell me, today at the market, I found out about a workshop that produces electrical appliances. The owner is from out of town and is reportedly leaving, so he's selling the workshop. Let's go check it out tomorrow. If it's suitable, we can take over the workshop. The next day, we found the owner and had him show us the workshop. The location was good, the workshop wasn't too big, and it was within our budget. Mr. Su, what's your price for this workshop? After the tour, I was quite satisfied, so I asked for the price. Mr. Su looked between Zhou Qing and me for a moment, then asked an unrelated question. Do you have skilled workers with electrical manufacturing technology? Do you understand this industry? That question really stumped us. Zhou Qing and I had absolutely no idea about any of this. We just jumped right in. He saw Zhou Qing and me exchange a look and understood immediately. 3. After some deep thought, Mr. Su looked at the workshop and said, this is basically my life's work. If it weren't for some urgent matters back home, I would never sell it. An idea sparked in my mind, and I tentatively asked him, Mr. Su, how about this? Instead of buying the workshop outright, we invest in it, you remain the boss and handle the technical side. The two of us would be shareholders, responsible for sales moving forward. Mr. Sue's eyes were clouded as he considered it for a long time before finally agreeing. Zhou Qing and I were absolutely thrilled, and to celebrate, we even went out for a special meal. That joy lasted until just before we got home, when I saw Li Qingjia and Zhou Qing's husband standing at our doorstep. Li Qingjia stared at me for a long time, his eyes a little red. He seemed to want to say something. But after a long pause, he just hoarsely called my name. I shot him a glance, all my earlier happiness completely gone, and said with a frosty expression, "What are you doing here?" Li Qingjia seemed a bit flustered by my cold demeanor. After a moment of silence, he timidly said, "To find you. If I'm not mistaken, there's nothing left between us." I couldn't even be bothered to glance at him. I just couldn't fathom how his formerly aloof personality had suddenly transformed like this. To even travel all this way just to find me here. Li Qingjia pulled something wrapped in an envelope from his bag and pressed it into my hand. He said, "Here's the medal for being recognized as an outstanding worker, along with some money. Section Chief Wang asked me to give it to you." As I felt the round medal, a pang of sadness hit me. In my past life, I cried for ages because I missed out on this award. Li Qingjia even bought me a cheap, fake medal then. I was over the moon at the time, thinking he cared about my feelings enough to go out of his way to get it for me. I never thought it was just because he exploited my weakness to disqualify me, and then felt overwhelmed with guilt when he saw me cry. I took it, then coldly glanced up at him. "If there's nothing else, I'm going home now." My home was just a few steps away, but Li Qingjia grabbed my wrist, making it impossible for me to move even an inch. I lowered my gaze to his hand, feeling a touch of irony, and reminded him, "This is a public place. Aren't you worried that manhandling me will tarnish your image as a teacher?" Li Qingjia visibly stiffened, but he didn't let go of my hand. After a long silence, he said in a muffled voice, "There's something else. I'm here to take you home." When he said that, I was immediately taken aback. I looked up at him, and after a long moment, I let out a cold laugh and asked, "What? You want to take me back?" So Zhou can vent her frustration about not getting the advanced worker title. This was his usual trick, both in my past life and this one, always offering a sweet treat, then slapping me awake. It made me realize that every sudden gesture of kindness from him had an ulterior motive, and that motive was definitely for Zhou. Li Qingjia grabbed my hand and pulled it back, and I stumbled unprepared into his arms, in what was our first embrace. His hands were clasped tightly around my waist. His voice trembled as he said, "I know I was wrong about what happened last time. I've been reflecting on my issues these past few days. I haven't shown you enough care in the past, but I'll change that from now on. Will you come home with me?" For him to speak to me like that, he was practically begging, but my heart remained calm, devoid of any emotion, and I pushed him away forcefully. Li Qingjia's face showed bewilderment, confusion, blankness, and a hint of anger. "I've already come to you like this, so please stop being difficult. What more do you want from me?" It was only then that I clearly saw he hadn't changed at all. His earlier overture was just a smokescreen. In front of me, he's always the same self-assured, fearlessly favored one, always holding the upper hand. So, when I didn't respond to his attempts to appease me, he'd be on the verge of losing his patience and temper. I calmly faced his anger, and with composure, I countered, "Li Qingjia, you came to me yourself, and now you think you're too humble. Don't you find that ridiculous?" Li Qingjia's face was grim as he stared at me with a heavy expression. After a moment of silence, he was the first to soften his tone. "All right, I was wrong just now. My tone was too harsh. I've just been so worried about you these past few days. You haven't been home in a month. If Zhou Qing hadn't left her husband to track your location, I wouldn't even know you'd run off to somewhere so far away." As he spoke, his eyes were fixed on me with an inquisitive gaze, as if trying to uncover other emotions hidden beneath my calm demeanor. What did he hope to see? Surprise, shock, excitement, I suppose. He probably thought a few more sweet words would convince me to go back with him, but that's never going to happen. I turned my face away and saw Zhou Qing was also impatiently dealing with someone, just like me. "How many times do I have to tell you? We're over." I had no more patience for Li Qingjia. I shook him off, went inside, and locked the door. Li Qingjia stayed by the door, knocking incessantly and calling out in a humble tone, "Ollie, it was my fault just now. Please come out, can we talk?" A moment later, my next-door neighbor came out yelling, "What's with all the knocking? They don't want to see you. You're disturbing my kids' homework." After that, the knocking stopped, and Li Qingjia left after apologizing profusely. I excitedly cooked 3 dishes and brought them to Zhou Qing's place, hoping for a long chat, but to my surprise, she had also cooked 3 dishes. We exchanged a smile, and Zhou Qing said, "I never thought I'd see the day he'd stoop so low to beg me." We couldn't even fit all 6 dishes on the table, and I was laughing so hard, it felt like after a lifetime, this was finally the real beginning. We popped open 2 sodas, clinked glasses. And I laughed with abandon. "Mr. Su has agreed too. I feel like these days are a new beginning for me, breaking free from Li Qingjia, moving past that relationship that made me doubt myself, and about to start my own business. Every single one of these feels like a blessing." The next day, after Zhou Qing and I finished packing up our stall, we arranged to meet with Mr. Su. He explained how to manage the workshop workers and also how to inspect the finished products. He also suggested that Zhou Qing and I take a mechanical manufacturing course. We wouldn't need to know everything, just the process and standards for electrical appliance production. It was clear that Mr. Su had a deep affection for his workshop. The day before we left, he even told us to make sure we stopped by every day. I smiled and waved at him. "Don't worry, we're shareholders now too." Zhou Qing and I followed his advice and signed up for classes. We'd make money running a breakfast stall. Hoping to expand the workshop into a factory one day, another half a month passed, and the workshop produced a batch of finished color TVs. Boss Su also returned from his hometown. Regarding the sale, he said, "We've got a tricky situation now. Raw materials have gone up quite a bit, but the Shenzhen color TV is only priced at 260 yuan. If we raise the price, they won't sell." Zhou Qing nudged me twice as he listened. "Do you remember how much color TVs sold for in our village?" "I think they were around 470 yuan, I nodded. "All the color TVs in our area are shipped from Shenzhen, so of course, the price is going up." As soon as he said that, a light bulb went off in my head, and I slapped the table. "We can transport the color TVs down south to sell them." We quickly discussed the shipping and rental car costs, and calculated that each color TV could sell for over 100 yuan more than in Shenzhen. Zhou Qing and I put our breakfast stall on hold for a week. We rented a car, found a driver, and headed south, selling an entire truckload of color TVs. After returning to Shenzhen, I counted our earnings from that trip, over 10,000 yuan. When I told Mr. Su the news, we were both ecstatic. I then shared my future plans with him. I want to use that money to buy a truck, hire 2 drivers, and continue down the path of transportation. Mr. Su thought it was a good idea, so he pulled out 30,000 from our previous 40,000 investment and let the 2 of us handle it. This plan ran for 3 months, and not only did we earn enough to expand our workshop, but we also made a name for ourselves in the southern market. We also opened up a transportation route. So if the southern market sources goods from us, it'll be 20 yuan cheaper than anywhere else. When Section Chief Wang from our village found out I was the one selling the color TVs, he quickly wrote me a letter asking if I had any connections. I told him about the plan to expand the workshop into a factory and that he could invest if he was interested. Section Chief Wang, along with several other party secretaries from the factory, discussed and decided to pool 50,000 yuan to invest in us. Mr. Su found a prime location, and the workshop was moved there with great fanfare. In just 2 months, Zhou Qing and I transformed into shareholders of an electrical appliance factory. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Boss Su smiled, happy and emotional. "Wu Li, do you have some kind of foresight? How do you manage to make everything go so smoothly? We've set up an appliance factory in less than half a year." Zhou Qing also smiled and said, "When I came out to find you, I never thought about making money. I just wanted to have something of my own to do. I never expected to achieve so much." I smiled and complimented them both. "It's all thanks to everyone's teamwork." After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, we went out to eat. The restaurant was a bit stuffy, so I stepped outside for some fresh air. That's where I saw Li Qingjia, right outside the restaurant. It wasn't really a surprise to see him. 4 months ago, he came to Shenzhen looking for me, and after I gave him the cold shoulder, he disappeared for a few days. Since then, he's been showing up in Shenzhen quite often, appearing in front of me repeatedly, always seeming like he wanted to say something but never quite daring to. It had been like that for 4 consecutive months, but I always ignored him, pretending not to notice, though sometimes I'd see a bento box hanging on my doorknob, or new clothes made of fresh fabric in a plastic bag. So, I just moved. I splurged on a 50 square meter apartment and settled in by myself. This was the first time I'd seen him in almost a month since then. When Section Chief Wang wrote to me, he was very cryptic. It sounded like he'd taken a leave of absence without pay, saying he was going to look for someone and would be back. He also mentioned that Jiuying was fired from the factory, and it was Li Qingjia who personally reported her. He said she had an affair, and the factory couldn't tolerate an employee with such a poor moral character. Now Jiuying is busy begging her city husband not to divorce her. Li Qingjia seemed to be deliberately waiting for me outside. When he saw me come out, he walked towards me step by step and whispered, "There's something I want to tell you." I gave him a cold look. There was nothing left to say between us. As I was about to leave, he grabbed my arm, but only for a second before letting go. His voice was hoarse, and he kept his head down, as if he couldn't bear to look me in the eye. With a slight catch in his voice, he said, after he finished speaking. I gave up all hope. I stood in the wind, watching him, silent for a long time. Li Qingjia, in his thin, old clothes, looked so desolate and defeated, as if a single word could easily knock him down. His face was still the same handsome face I had loved in my previous life, but back then, he always appeared before me full of vigor and disdain. This is the first time I've seen him so humble and submissive. "All right, talk, 5 minutes. I glanced at my watch, my voice devoid of emotion. Li Qingjia said impatiently, I've been in Shenzhen this whole time, right by your side. I softly acknowledged, "I see it." He kept looking at me, but still couldn't find any emotion on my face. He said dejectedly, "Ollie, I was really unwilling at first. I felt like we'd been together for so many years. How could we break up because of Jiuying? I've regretted my impulsiveness countless times. I hate myself for not being firm. Always thinking that Jiuying once saved my father's life and I needed to repay her, which is why I hurt you by using your secret." My eyes were dim, and I remained silent. Half a year has passed, and he still doesn't know why I chose to leave him. I just felt that if I hadn't revealed all my secrets back then, perhaps I wouldn't have left without a second thought. The wind tousled his hair, which had grown long, as had his unshaven beard. He no longer looked anything like the respectable teacher he was supposed to be. His face was right in front of me, a face I'd seen countless times in my past life, yet now my vision was so blurry, I could only make out a silhouette. Perhaps it was love that etched his image so deeply into my mind, and now, without that love, the specific details have faded, leaving only a vague outline. He choked back tears, still speaking. "I've seen it these past few days. You'll be better off without me." I pulled my coat tighter, watching his tears with the same cold indifference he'd shown me in our previous life. After a moment of silence, I spoke, "Li Qingjia, it wasn't just one single thing that made me resolute enough to leave you." He lifted his bloodshot eyes to me, a mix of melancholy and confusion in their depths, and replied hoarsely, "I know, I didn't show you enough care." I shook my head, refuting his answer, and said earnestly, "Because I can see our future. I can see that you'll still love Jiuying 20 years from now. This is just a temporary blip, a brief moment where you're denying your feelings for her." He shook his head, firmly refuting me. "No, that's not it. I've seen my heart clearly now. I only ever felt gratitude towards her. Ollie, you're the one I've always loved. I'm used to having you by my side. Chattering away, without you, home feels so quiet and uncomfortable. So many things happened in this life that I never expected, things I could even describe as astonishing." Li Qingjia confessing his love to me was one of those moments. I calmly cut him off. "Then you'll have to get used to it, because I won't be by your side in the future." He suddenly pressed his lips together, his brows furrowed, not in anger, but in sorrow. For the first time, I actually found myself using the word pathetic to describe Li Qingjia. He kept his eyes down, wanting to say something but not daring to, his shoulders trembling uncontrollably, whether from the wind or overwhelming grief, I couldn't tell. After that one sentence from me, I felt like a soulless puppet, staring blankly at the floor, letting the tears stream down my face. I remained indifferent and continued, "Actually, it's probably for the best that you told me about it, at least now. Nothing can ever hurt me again. I won't be hurt by anyone anymore." "Ollie." Li Qingjia gazed at me intently, his lips parting several times before finally settling on a single word, "I'm sorry." I ignored his apology, instead raising my wrist to check the time, saying impatiently, "Time's up, I need to go in." Li Qingjia didn't follow. He just stood there, rooted to the spot, until we came out after dinner and he was still there. Zhou Qing saw him and whispered, "How did he end up following me here?" I casually replied, "Who knows, must be desperate." Zhou Qing nodded, smiling as she told me, "You know how my ex-husband absolutely refused to divorce me before. He finally agreed a while ago, and now I'm completely free of any worries. that's fantastic, let's go out to eat again tomorrow to celebrate. As I smiled and glanced sideways at her, I caught a glimpse of Li Qinjia, who had frozen in place. He had been watching me, his gaze following my every move, so as soon as I caught sight of him, our eyes met. Li Qinjia forced a stiff, awkward smile, just like the first time we met in my past life. Back then, though, all I could think was, he's so cute, but now, I just feel annoyed. I turn my gaze forward again and continue walking. The three of us started our own company and created our own electrical appliance brand. It sold very well in the southern market back then, attracting many companies to partner with us. With the first pot of gold we earned, I also told Zhou Qing the news that commercial housing prices would rise in a few years. Zhou Qing didn't even ask where I heard the news. He just poured all his savings into commercial real estate. He then joined me in investing in the construction industry, getting into the real estate business. The dividends from the appliance factory are quarterly, and Section Chief Wang and the others have already issued theirs, so I called him. I asked for his bank account number to transfer the money to him. Section Chief Wang, however, said, I never expected to get this money back, you keep it. I found it strange that he wouldn't accept it and insisted on sending the money. Section Chief Wang hesitated for a long time before telling me the truth. Wu Li, actually, this 50,000 yuan is from Li Qingjia. He said if he gave it to you himself, you definitely wouldn't take it. So he asked me to give it to you under the guise of investing in you. He said that in everyone's eyes, my business was always just a one-man show, and it wouldn't be long before I lost money. No one was willing to invest in my plans. After I told Li Qingjia, he gave me his passbook and told me to take the money. After thinking it over, I decided to send the money to Section Chief Wang. I told him that the factory wasn't doing as well as it used to, and this money should be saved to help laid-off workers in the future. The people at the factory weren't bad to me back then. Maybe this money is my way of repaying their kindness. Zhou Qing and her ex-husband finally got their divorce certificate, and she dragged me to a photo studio to take a picture. Compared to when we first started out a year ago, we both changed, becoming braver and more resilient. Zhou Qing caressed the photo, smiling until her eyes blurred with tears. With her eyes brimming, she said to me, Wu Li, I never thought I'd live to see myself like this. I also cried tears of joy. Everything from the past is behind us now. From now on, things will be great. I truly believe that. Story 2, I had a car accident. After the car exploded, the husband I despised and detested all my life, ran towards the flames without hesitation, and died trying to save me. When I opened my eyes, I was back to being 25 years old. He was listening to my mother scolding him. The dowry should be 388,000 yuan. Whether you have to sell blood or a kidney, you can't miss a penny. 1. Mom, save me, save me. I was trapped in the passenger seat. The car had flipped over. My mother, with eyes red, rushed towards the car and struggled to open the door. First, she dragged out my brother who was in shock, then my sister-in-law and my nephew. After she pulled everyone from the back seat, she sat exhausted on the ground. I touched my swollen belly with my left hand. In 3 more months, I was going to welcome my first child. Thinking of my child, I found some strength. Mom, save me. It was the hottest time of the year, and even though it was a busy area, there weren't many people on the street. My husband parked the car by the roadside, because just as we passed a toy store, my nephew had set his eyes on an Ultraman Lego set in the display window. After my nephew started crying and using his ultimate weapon, my mother couldn't stand it anymore and started scolding my husband. How can you be such an uncle? Didn't you hear Lele crying? Go buy him the toy now. My husband looked at me, and I frowned impatiently. If mom tells you to go, just go. Lele is too noisy. I can't stand it. Over the years, whenever I went out with my mom and my brother's family, all expenses were paid by my husband, and we all got used to it. My husband looked at my belly, his expression worried. It's so hot today. Why don't we go home early? I'm worried it's too much for you. Hearing this, my mother immediately became unhappy. Why be so delicate? When I was pregnant, I was still working in the fields. People weren't so fussy in the countryside. Chung Song, what do you mean? Are you reluctant to buy toys for my grandson? Look at how stingy you are. I'm ashamed to call you uncle. Seeing that my mother was about to make a scene again, I waved my hand to signal Chung Song to hurry down and buy the toy, too. Today is Children's Day, and my brother brought my mother and the others to my house early, saying they wanted to give Lele a happy June. While pregnant, I went with them to the amusement park and had lunch. I finally endured until we could go home, really not wanting any more delays. Unexpectedly, just after Ching Song left, an accident happened. A sedan car drove straight towards us. Flipping our car over, I covered my belly in pain, trying my best to unbuckle the seatbelt, but I couldn't muster any strength. My mother pulled the others out and sat on the ground, gasping for breath. With all my strength, I finally managed to call out Mom. Hearing my voice, my mother looked up and nudged my brother. Go pull your sister out, I'm out of strength. My brother hesitated and waved his hand. I wouldn't dare. Haven't you seen the news on TV? Cars can easily explode after a collision. What if it explodes when I go there? What? Explode? Hearing the word explode, my mother and my sister-in-law jumped up. The two of them, along with my brother and nephew, quickly ran towards the distance. I watched incredulously as they ran away. The house my brother got married in was bought by Ching Song and me. The dowry for his wife was paid by Ching Song and me. When my dad was last hospitalized, it was Ching Song who took care of him. My mother always said, a woman's reliance is her parental home. As long as my brother lives well, I can stand tall, and Ching Song won't look down on me. Yet, the family I doted on my whole life left me in the car with a baby in my belly when disaster struck, and they all ran away. 3. Mom, little brother, save me, please save me. I cried out in despair, unwilling to accept my fate, yet all I could see was their figures growing smaller as they ran further away. Being pregnant. My sense of smell was exceptionally sharp. I could smell the intense scent of blood mixed with the strong odor of gasoline. The fuel tank was leaking. The car might actually explode. People on the street paused, hesitating to come any closer, some already pulling out their phones to make calls. My family ran without looking back, and my heart sank deeper and deeper. I really thought I was going to die. I felt sorry for my child, who hadn't even had the chance to see this world. Boom. The explosion erupted, and I felt my entire body scorch in an instant. Just before closing my eyes, I saw a tall figure running desperately toward me from afar against the crowd. It was Ching Song, that fool. The explosion had already happened, yet he was still running towards it. Wasn't he afraid of dying? Ching Song truly wasn't afraid of death. He faced the blazing high temperatures and plunged headlong into the fierce flames. Watching him desperately trying to reach me, arms flailing, actually made me laugh in spite of the situation. Amidst the blaze, the love in this fool's eyes burned even hotter than the flames. 4. I never actually liked Ching Song. Although he was handsome, he wasn't the type of handsome I liked. I preferred men with fair skin, preferably wearing glasses, genteel and soft-spoken. But Ching Song, he looked like he was from the countryside. His skin was the color of wheat, his body muscular, and although his features were striking with bold brows and bright eyes, his voice was particularly loud, which made him seem coarse. As the only scholar in our village, I really didn't want to marry Ching Song, but after so many matchmaking attempts, when all other men ran away hearing the dowry was 388,000 yuan, only Ching Song was willing to pay. Under my family's pressure, I married him reluctantly. After the marriage, Ching Song worked tirelessly to make money and treated me well, but I still found it all so meaningless. This man, I could command him to do anything, and he'd never say no. He seemed like a fool. Wasn't Ching Song really a fool? If he wasn't a fool, why would he continue to treat me so well no matter how I treated him? If he wasn't a fool, why would he willingly be a workhorse for my family despite my coldness? If he wasn't a fool, why would he run into the fire to die with me? Before losing consciousness, I thought, if heaven could give me another chance, I would definitely treat this fool better, much better. 5. You, wanting to marry our Qingwan. I heard you've been working in the city for years. With your education, how much could you possibly earn? Our Qingwan is the only scholar in our village. The dowry must be at least 388,000 yuan. Whether you sell your blood or your kidney, you can't be short. I shook my head, feeling both familiar and alienated by the middle-aged woman in front of me. She rolled her eyes and pursed her lips, her expression full of disdain and impatience. Is this my mother? I pinched myself to make sure I was actually sitting on the sofa at home with my mother, and across from me, there was Ching Song, his face somber. Had I come back? I really was back. In disbelief, I stared at the young man sitting uncomfortably in front of me. This was Ching Song at 25, young Ching Song, still alive. Ching Song, I screamed as I stood up. Then, under the shocked eyes of my mother and Ching Song, I bent down, cupped Ching Song's face with my hands, and kissed him fiercely. 6. With a loud crash, the cheap single sofa in our home, made of low-quality leather and a lightweight base, couldn't withstand the combined weight and frantic struggle between Chung Song and me. We both ended up on the floor. Just before hitting the ground, Chung Song quickly protected my head with his hands, but he himself took a hard hit on the floor. Hearing that sound, I winced in sympathy for his pain. Are you alright? Did you hurt yourself anywhere? With a flushed face, Chung Song anxiously helped me up, his expression filled with worry. I stared blankly at Chung Song's panicked demeanor. My heart felt as if it was being squeezed, sour and bitter. With a dull pain, I reached out to touch Chung Song's face. His skin was smooth yet burning hot. Chung Song froze as if a spell had been cast on him, rigid and unable to move, almost too scared to even blink. What are you doing, you silly girl? My mom stepped forward and pulled me away from him. She frowned, her gaze shifting back and forth between me and Chung Song several times. Are you two in a relationship? No, we've just been sleeping. 7. The air was deathly silent. Chung Song looked at me in astonishment, his eyes filled with disbelief and incomprehension. My mom, shocked, stared at me, and then, pulling off her slipper, she swung it at me. I'll beat you, you shameless girl. The reason my mom demanded a dowry of 388,000 was actually because of my brother. He had taken a liking to a girl whose family demanded a dowry of 260,000 and a fully paid house in the county town. Housing prices aren't high in our small town. A small 2-bedroom apartment costs just over 400,000, but all the savings my family had accumulated over the years amounted to just over 200,000. That was more than 500,000 short of the girl's family's demands. My dad suggested raising my dowry to 580,000, but my mom refused. After all, having finished my studies and worked for 2 years, I was already 25 years old. In the countryside, that's considered quite old for a woman. My mom felt that given my looks and education, 380,000 was already the limit, so she devised a plan and had my brother get his girlfriend pregnant. With the girl pregnant, my mom's stance suddenly became much stronger. After a lengthy bargaining, they settled the dowry at 158,000 if I could successfully marry for a dowry of 388,000, then my brother's wife would be secured, and their marriage would be successfully arranged. I had worked while studying, leaving me no time for relationships, so at 25, I hadn't even held a man's hand. My mom was particularly proud of this fact, bold enough to demand such a high price. Part of the reason was also that she considered me a valuable, untouched maiden. Now, hearing me say that I had slept with Chung Song, my mom was absolutely furious. 8. Chung Song, what are you waiting for? Run. I grabbed Chung Song's hand and sprinted out of the house, with my mom chasing after us, slipper in hand and cursing. The shock of the day had overwhelmed Chung Song. He was completely dazed. Led by my hand, he ran forward like a mechanical puppet. In the countryside, people might be slow at other things, but they gather quickly for a spectacle. Almost as soon as Chung Song and I stepped out, the villagers, bowls in hand, gathered around. Oh my, what's happening here? Lu Tsuehua, the notorious gossip of Lu Village, was the first on the scene, a bun hanging from her mouth, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Mom, be careful, don't hurt the baby in my belly. I ran and cried, while not forgetting to clutch my stomach and pinch Chung Song. Clearly, Chung Song wasn't playing along. He turned his head, looking at me as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. With a sigh, he gripped my hand tightly and led me into a run. We quickly left the village behind. Beside the village was a sizable lake, its waters a clear green, the scenery picturesque. Chung Song and I walked hand in hand by the lake, both of us silent for a long while. I quickened my pace, but Chung Song did not follow, pulled back by him. I turned around just to see Chung Song staring intensely at our intertwined hands. Lu Qingwan, tell me, who is this man? Man, what man? I looked up at him, bewildered. Chung Song's lips were tightly pursed, emotion swirling in his eyes. He gave a self-deprecating laugh, his lips curling slightly upward. Lu Qingwan, I do like you, but that doesn't mean you can treat me like a fool. You've encountered a reckless bad boy, and now you want me to take the blame. Lu Qingwan, what am I really to you in your heart? With that, Chung Song forcefully released my hand, his expression both pained and angry. I swallowed hard, facing Chung Song who wore a dark expression. Oh, my goodness, why has everything turned out so differently from what I expected? I was just trying to deceive my mother, It seems like I've really messed up the plot. Chung Song listened to my explanation. He had started to walk away but paused. Standing still for a moment before turning back and shoving a bank card into my hand, Chung Song reached out, gently touched my hair, and forced a smile more pain than tears. Lu Qingwan, take good care of yourself from now on. I won't come looking for you again. Take care of yourself. Chung Song ran off. Not only did he run, but he also ran away crying. Chung Song's parents divorced when he was very young, and he was raised by his grandfather. As a child, the village often mocked him, calling his mother derogatory names. Other kids tore his textbooks and threw away his chair, hurling mud at him. Only I would play with him. I thought Chung Song had eyes as bright as the stars. I loved watching the stars the most, maybe because I was the sole warmth in Chung Song's childhood, hence he pursued me and protected me all his life. In the past, even when he was pushed into the mud as a child, I never saw him cry. Thinking back to the tears on Chung Song's face just now, I feel that maybe things with Chung Song won't go so smoothly in this life. No, the thought of Chung Song possibly marrying another woman made my blood rush to my head. I will not allow this to happen. In a panic, I rushed back home, and as soon as my mother saw me enter, she threw a cloth at my face. You still have the face to come back. How did I raise such a shameless daughter? I rolled my eyes. Isn't premature pregnancy a fine tradition in our family? My mother froze. Standing at the doorway, trembling with anger, it then dawned on me. Before marrying Chung Song, I was the village scapegoat. Most of the village girls would go to the city after finishing junior high. For some reason, my parents allowed me to attend high school. Although I had good grades and the school waived my tuition, I financed my studies through student loans. Living expenses during school were earned through my part-time jobs. Still, I was grateful to my parents. They, however, reminded me every day of their great kindness in allowing me to study, claiming that I would never be able to repay their favor in my lifetime. Later, after marrying Chung Song, my mother would ask me for money every day. The more she asked, the less firm she became. As for me, pampered by Chung Song, my temperament grew worse. Although I never outright refused my parents' requests, I carried myself with an air of superiority. Sister, how can you speak to mom like that? I didn't even realize when my younger brother had come home. He crossed his arms and glared at me angrily. Seeing my brother only fueled my anger. When the car exploded, my mom still thought of pulling me to safety, but this brother, for whom I bought a house and a car, only thought of running away. Lu Xiuming, what does this have to do with you? Apart from leeching off your parents, what else can you do? Get lost. Bang. My dad slammed his hand on the table. Who are you talking to? Show some respect. My brother and I are twins. Back then, our family was poor, living in a small town clinic. My mom never had an ultrasound. She didn't even know she was carrying twins. I heard that when the nurse brought me out of the operating room to show my dad, he just glanced and walked away. My grandmother was even worse, opening a pot of chicken soup that had been stewing all day. She took one look and spat. Pa, can't even produce a son. And you think you deserve to drink the chicken soup I labored over. It wasn't until my brother was brought out that the mood finally lightened. Instantly, my mother went from being the hen that couldn't lay eggs to the hero of the Lu family. I rubbed my temples, looking at my family, who seemed unusually united in front of me. Suddenly, I realized that being important was also a burden. I haven't even married Chung Song yet. Moreover, to get a good price for me. My mom hid our household registration book very tightly. After all, my brother's hopes for finding a wife all depended on me. If I ran away, there'd be no hope for my brother's marriage or his house. I had to deal with my family and win back Chung Song. Every day, what is all this fuss about? I didn't have the energy to argue with my parents and went back to my room with a frown. I pulled out the bank card Chung Song had given me from my pocket. It seemed to still carry his warmth. This fool, thinking I was carrying someone else's child and still giving me money. He's hopelessly foolish. I was wrong. I knew rumors in the village spread fast. I didn't realize they could spread this fast. Just overnight, the whole village was saying I came home to have a matchmaking session because I was pregnant with some boss's child. The boss, after being beaten by his wife, obediently went back home. I neither got any money nor a husband, but ended up pregnant. So, I thought about finding a man in the village to take the blame. The gossip was detailed, even describing the boss as over 40, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, slightly pot-bellied, and refined. The rumors were so detailed and specific, I almost believed them myself. My parents hung their heads low, too ashamed to even step outside. The atmosphere at home was terribly oppressive. That child, it's not Chung Song's. My dad, holding a cigarette, furrowed his brow tightly. Clearly speaking to me but his eyes fixed on the floor. Can we make Chung Song accept the child? We could ask for a smaller dowry, just 288,000. I almost laughed out of anger. Dad, do you think Chung Song is a fool? My dad put out his cigarette. Hasn't he loved you since you were kids, when you went to the city for high school, whenever he came back to the village? The first thing he'd do was hang around our doorstep. Chung Song is stubborn, I'm not mistaken about that. You should talk to him about the 288,000. I can let him pay in installments, not all at once. 14. Was Chung Song always hanging around at my doorstep? No wonder I used to bump into him on the village roads every weekend when I came home from school. Looking back, what I thought were coincidences were actually the result of Chung Song's careful planning day and night. How much must he like me? That silly guy. My heart feels tender and sweet. I don't care. Chen Fong is pregnant now. I definitely have to give her an explanation. Her dad has already said that we can't skimp on the house and the dowry. They are only asking for 158,000 for the dowry, which is already considerate of our family. My brother threw a tantrum on the sofa, nearly rolling on the ground. My mom kept comforting him. All right, Mom will figure something out. Old man, won't you say something? My dad stood up. A down payment of 180,000. And the remaining 100,000 can be paid over 2 years. Have Chung Song come over tomorrow, and we'll settle this. This family really has its quirks. Seeing the look on my face, my mom started to earnestly persuade me, all for my sake. Your parents are doing this all for you, otherwise, why would you be the only girl in the village getting an education? Do you think it's because you're good at studying? No, it's because we are willing to support you. If your brother doesn't get married, how would your future husband respect you? Only if your brother is married with a son will you have a strong backing. He is your support and confidence for life. I nodded expressionlessly. Right. You are absolutely correct. 15. Chung Song went to the city for work, and I shamelessly asked around a lot before I finally found out where he was working. After marrying Chung Song in my previous life, I never had to worry about money. All I knew was that he worked in a renovation company. With the rise of real estate, the renovation business was booming. Chung Song started as a brick mover, but he was clever and savvy. After some time, he learned tiling and became a skilled craftsman. Eventually, he and a few friends started their own renovation company. Business was getting better, and they were making more money. By now, he should still just be a tiling craftsman. The weather was very hot, and even though I was wearing a thin short-sleeved shirt, I was still sweating profusely. It was noon, and the half-renovated room felt like a furnace, stuffy and hot. Chung Song, shirtless, was squatting on the ground working fervently. Sweat dripped from his chiseled chin to the ground, stirring ripples in my heart. I stared blankly at Chung Song working hard, feeling my heartbeat quicken. Chung Song looked up to relax his sore neck and was visibly startled when he saw me. Lu Qingwan. Chung Song awkwardly stood up. He seemed reluctant to let me see him sweaty and dirty. He turned away, hastily pulled on a shirt lying nearby, and ran his hands through his already drenched hair before facing me with a stern expression. What are you doing here? 16. I pulled out a tissue to wipe the dirt off his forehead and smiled at him. I came to see you. A flicker of joy passed through Chung Song's eyes, quickly followed by a look of disappointment, his eyes downcast, his tone tinged with sarcasm. Are you short on money? That's all I have. Money. Is money the only reason I would come to see him? I glared at him, frustrated, yet feeling a bit uneasy inside. After all, in my previous life, I only treated Chung Song nicely when he gave me money. Chung Song wiped his sweat and took several big gulps from his water bottle. Looking at that green Sprite bottle, I felt a pang of heartache for the first time. Chung Song was always frugal, begrudging every cent. Every day he worked hard on the floor, and he couldn't even bring himself to buy a water cup. He reused a Sprite bottle every day. He would fill a bottle with cold boiled water from home to take with him. The money he saved from living frugally was all taken by me to give to my parents' home. I really am a beast. Chung Song, I came to explain to you. The things I said that day were just to deceive my mom. Actually, I'm not pregnant. Chung Song looked at me doubtfully, and before he could speak, his phone rang. After taking the call on the side, Chung Song's face looked terrible. Suppressing his anger, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me up from the ground. That call was from your mom. She said the dowry could be just 280,000 yuan. and it could be paid in installments. She also said that even though you are pregnant, the child can take my surname after birth, like I'm picking up a free son, Lu Qingwan. Your whole family really treats me like a fool. No, that's not it. Hey. Listen to my explanation. I was driven away by Ching Song. After escorting me out of the neighborhood, he didn't look back and went to have dinner with his friends. Standing dazedly by the roadside, I experienced for the first time what it means to shoot oneself in the foot. The path to winning back my husband doesn't look easy. Over time, I also don't know how to explain to Ching Song that I'm not pregnant. It's not like I could force him to accompany me to the hospital to prove my innocence. Ching Song is busy working and earning money. He probably doesn't have the time. Dejected, I went home. As soon as I arrived home, my mom came over anxiously. Why didn't you answer your phone? How did it go with Ching Song? Your sister-in-law's family is pressing us again. We can wait, but the baby inside cannot. I waved my hand impatiently. If it can't wait, then let it be. Slap. I received a heavy slap on the face, which left me seeing stars and unable to react for a moment. My mom was holding my brother around the waist, and his face was fierce as he clenched his teeth. Mom, let go. If it wasn't for Lu Qingwan degrading herself by getting pregnant, Chen Fong and I would have been married by now. Ching Song has been working since he graduated from middle school. He must have saved quite a lot of money over the years. It's all Lu Qingwan's fault. I have to beat her to death today. Mom, let go. Tui. I spat out blood-stained spit. Lu Xiaoming, I'm done with you. I grabbed a broom by the door and started hitting Lu Xiaoming over the head with it. Any sibling affection was long gone when he abandoned me in his past life. My brother was spoiled from childhood. Stayed at home living off our parents after graduation, and stayed up late playing games every night. So, even though he was younger, his physical condition was poor. After being hit by me wielding the broom, Lu Xiaoming ran out of the house holding his head. I gripped the broom tightly and chased after him, causing a commotion that quickly attracted a crowd of onlookers. What's going on? Why is Lu Qingwan still hitting? As I swung the broom around fiercely and shouted. Just because Ching Song couldn't provide a 380,000 yuan dowry to marry me, you want to hit me. You can't get a wife because you're incompetent, and you still have the nerve to hit me. Your computer and phone, I bought them for you with the money I earned. How could I have such an ungrateful brother? At this point, even more people gathered around. Those who couldn't get a good view at the gate even climbed up the high walls to watch the drama unfold. Lu Xiaoming, humiliated by the public beating, was both ashamed and angry. Just then, as I was getting a bit weak, he snatched the broom from my hand and viciously hit me twice, one hitting my abdomen. Ouch, what's that on Lu Qingwan's backside? Good heavens, Lu Qingwan is bleeding. Mother, Lu Xiaoming has caused his sister to have a miscarriage. Lu Xiaoming and I both froze. Miscarriage. I numbly reached back to touch my behind, and sure enough, there was fresh red blood. I felt a faint pain in my lower abdomen. Is this my period? My periods weren't very regular when I was younger. Sometimes I would go 2 months between, sometimes it could take up to 3 months. Every time it happened, the flow was excessive, almost like a hemorrhage. Because of this irregular period, it took a whole 10 years of marriage with Ching Song before I got pregnant. Lu Xiaoming panicked. His face pale and his expression filled with terror. It wasn't me, I only hit her twice. It must be Lu Qingwan's own health issues that caused the miscarriage. As soon as Lu Xiaoming finished speaking, I staggered a few steps, then my eyes rolled back and I collapsed to the ground. Lu Qingwan, a man's anxious voice called out as Ching Song forcefully made his way through the crowd to reach me. He swiftly picked me up and ran towards his minivan. Lu Qingwan, hang in there, you're going to be alright. The onlookers excitedly chased after us. I saw with my own eyes how Lu Tsuewa's mother sprinted ahead, almost running past Ching Song. My brother and my mother stood in the yard looking distressed, neither of them offering to take me to the hospital. In crucial times, it was only Ching Song, always only Ching Song. I reached out and tightly held on to Ching Song's neck, feeling extremely blessed. It was wonderful. Ching Song still cared about me. He placed me in the passenger seat and drove quickly. His face filled with anxiety and his forehead covered with beads of sweat. I sat in the passenger seat, pressing on my abdomen, feeling waves of joy welling up inside me. Lu Qingwan, don't worry, I will find a way to save your child. Wait, child, hang on, don't fall asleep. Lu Qingwan. As he continued, Ching Song's voice even became a bit heart-wrenching, unable to pretend to be unconscious any longer. I sheepishly opened my eyes and managed a weak smile. Ching Song, don't worry too much. I think I'm actually fine, over 20 years old and can't differentiate between menstruation and a miscarriage. Are you making a joke out of the hospital? Chung Song was so embarrassed by the young doctor that he couldn't even lift his head. He glared at me angrily. I immediately lowered my head like a scolded schoolchild. I told you it was just my period, but you wouldn't believe me. As we left the hospital, Chung Song still wore a look of disbelief. Lu Qingwan, how could you lie about something like this? Don't you know what the village is saying about you? Do you realize how important a girl's reputation is? Chung Song questioned me, and I kept my head down. Finally, frustrated and embarrassed, I defiantly raised my head and puffed out my chest. It's because you're naive. I originally wanted to say I was carrying your child so that my parents couldn't ask for a large dowry. Who knew? Everyone thought I was carrying someone else's child. Even you thought so. Actually, I know I shouldn't blame others, because I really didn't think much of Chung Song before, never showing him any kindness. Even before marrying Chung Song, I hardly spoke a few words to him. Of course, Chung Song didn't believe me. He looked at me skeptically. After a long pause, he sighed deeply. Tell me, Lu Qingwan, what exactly do you want? I want to marry you. I want to treat you well all my life. I want to repay all the love I owed you in my past life. These words went through my mind over and over, but in the end, I swallowed them back down. That night, when Chung Song was supposed to take me home, I clung to his sleeve, unwilling to let go. I can't go home, it will give everything away. Chung Song looked at me intently, silent. I called my parents in front of him. Hello, Mom, I'm at the hospital. The medical expenses were over 6,000 yuan, which Chung Song had advanced for me. All my previous funds were in your account. Could you? Oh. You're being foolish. You can just use this opportunity to cling on to Chung Song. I'm hanging up now. It's just a miscarriage, nothing more. I still need to cook dinner for your brother. Chung Song remained silent, yet his eyes conveyed sympathy and pity. Blinking my eyes pitifully, I looked up at him. Chung Song, please take me in. I don't plan to go home anymore. I want to stay in the city. Originally, I couldn't swallow my pride and wanted to stay at home to match wits with my family. But winning back Chung Song was far more important. After all, Chung Song was willing to earn money, and he wasn't bad looking. Although he wasn't highly educated, he was quite popular with the girls. As for my family, it's just my parents and my timid brother. If I don't provoke them, they can still lead a chaotic life on their own. Ah Song, I tugged at Chung Song's sleeve, causing him to shudder, his face turning red from his neck to the tips of his ears. As a child, I often played with Chung Song. Back then, I would sweetly call him Ah Song. In my previous life, whenever I called him that, no matter what I asked for, Chung Song would never refuse. Chung Song had actually already bought a house in the city at that time. Looking at the spacious and bright two-bedroom apartment, I was almost speechless. Is this your house? Chung Song carefully placed my shoes in the cabinet. Yes, I decorated this house myself, originally planning for marriage. He glanced at me with a flushed face and then quickly looked away. I remember that he paid the bride price, bought me 3 gold pieces, and it was 2 years later that we bought this house. So, did he sell his prepared matrimonial home to pay the bride price back then? I really didn't deserve it. Although Chung Song earned quite a bit in his previous life, I wasn't really well off, because I gave all the money I had to my family. In the end, even my brother's wife's family came to leech off us. What kind of madness had I succumbed to, forsaking a good life and putting myself and Chung Song through such turmoil? Thinking of this, I felt immensely guilty. I pulled out Chung Song's bank card from my pocket and forcefully placed it in his hand. Chung Song, this is your money. I'm giving it back to you. I'll earn my own money from now on. And I don't plan to go back home. My transformation in these past 2 days was so drastic that Chung Song didn't know how to respond. He stared at me for a long time, then broke into a radiant smile. Lu Qingwan, keep it up. Our cohabitation officially began. For the first time, I felt so useless. Although it was like returning to 10 years ago, I was clueless about the changes and trends in society. In my previous life, every time Chung Song made money, I would go home and show off. I was busy gossiping, dealing with family matters, shopping, and watching dramas, never considering earning money myself. Returning as a useless person, I remained just that. I lay on my back in bed, overwhelmed by a tremendous sense of defeat. The next day, before Chung Song had even gotten out of bed, I was already busy in the kitchen. With sleepy eyes, he came into the living room, and I had already prepared breakfast. Wearing an apron, tomato and egg noodles. Want some? Shamefully. In my past life, It was always Ching Song who cooked for me. In this life, I am determined to be a good wife and mother to Ching Song and to strive to earn money, managing both family and career. Ching Song seemed pleasantly surprised. He cautiously took a bite of the noodles. He glanced up at me, then asked with a hint of impatience, "Lu Qingwan, what is it that you want?" It seemed that my image in Ching Song's mind wasn't particularly favorable. With a faint pout, I retorted, "Can't I cook for you without needing a reason? But actually, I do need a favor. Do you know where I can learn interior design?" After a night of thought, I finally recognized my own strength. In my previous life, Ching Song loved taking me to see the beautifully decorated houses and various design plans his company had completed. He would patiently explain the different layouts and styles to me, sharing the trends and design principles in the realm of interior design. I was at least a decade ahead of the current market trends. This time, Ching Song was genuinely surprised. Nevertheless, he seriously recommended a basic training course to me and, knowing that I was short on money, even generously paid the tuition for me. During my stay in town, my mother bombarded me with countless phone calls, all urging me to bring Ching Song home to formally propose marriage. She mentioned how my brother's wife was showing more and more, and the in-laws were becoming impatient. I casually brushed off the calls, let them wait. It was better this way. Chen Feng's family was not easy to deal with. Like me, she had a younger brother. Her marriage required a dowry partly to help finance her brother's future wedding. In my past life, Chen Feng had not missed any opportunity to siphon money from me to support her brother. This time around, I thought, let someone else bear that burden, humming a tune. I felt as if the world had become brighter since I'd left home. However, good days didn't last long before trouble struck my family. Chen Feng's family came knocking, creating havoc at our home and even injuring my father's head. When I arrived, I found my father with his head wrapped in gauze, lying in bed. My mother was fretting in the courtyard, and my brother was feigning death, stubbornly staying in bed, unwilling to get up. This family was a hopeless case. "Why hasn't Ching Song come to pay the dowry yet?" my father complained. I rolled my eyes. "Forget it. I heard Ching Song is already seeing someone else. I'm a woman who has miscarried. No one will marry me now. Don't count on it." "What?" my mother screamed, standing up. She jabbed her finger into my forehead, frustrated. "Have we really wasted our years raising you?" I looked up at her and grinned. "Isn't it said that children are debts?" muttering under her breath. My mother went off to cook while my father dozed on the bed. I seized the moment to sneak into their room and steal the family register. Dinner was a somber affair, and I couldn't hold back any longer. "Why must you agree to give Chen Feng's family so much money and a house, when buying vegetables worth 2 yuan, you haggle? So why not bargain in this situation? And besides, Chen Feng is already pregnant. You're not refusing to support her, so why must you agree to every demand? What if she demands a Beijing apartment next? How will you handle that? Our family has its limits. If she agrees to marry into it, fine. If not, then let it be." Although I disliked my family, I detested Chen Feng's family even more. Let them fight among themselves. Seeing no help from my end, my parents panicked. My brother, unwilling to let me leave, blocked the door. "Lu Qingwan, we've supported you all this time. You can't just ignore our troubles." I gave him a chilling smile. "You caused my miscarriage with that beating. Do you know what kind of crime that is? Everyone in the village saw it, and there are medical records at the hospital. That's considered serious injury. Serious injury is a criminal offense. You could go to jail, you know." My father became anxious immediately. "You can't talk nonsense like that. It was an accident." My mother nodded vigorously in agreement. "Exactly. Don't try to pin this on your brother. He's all you have." My brother looked at me triumphantly, even daring to taunt me by tilting his chin up. I looked them in the eye seriously, then left home without looking back. From that moment on, their deaths had nothing to do with me anymore. When I got back to Ching Song's place, he was still busy working on the ground. I had bought a bunch of vegetables from the market and was washing them, wondering what exactly Ching Song liked about me. Though I was a good student in my youth, after marrying him, I became lazy and gluttonous, spending my days doing nothing but spending money and visiting my parents' home, even due to health reasons. It took us 10 years of marriage to conceive our first child. By then, we were both 35, yet Ching Song never once resented or complained about me. His attitude towards me never changed, just as it had always been. Ching Song finished his chores and came back. I naturally took the bag from his hands and handed him his slippers. After he changed his clothes and returned from the room, I stuffed a piece of watermelon into his mouth. "Is it sweet?" Chung Song's expression was dreamlike. He stared at me intently, almost as if he couldn't recognize me. I sighed. I'd just have to take it slow. Considering how obviously I had shown disdain for him before, I'll make him get used to me. To the me who sees him in her eyes, Chung Song, can I stay here a bit longer, until I find a job and save enough for rent, then I'll move out. Chung Song picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork rib. Just stay here comfortably, don't move out. I poked at the rice in my bowl. Isn't that inappropriate? Wouldn't it affect your chances of finding someone? The moment the words left my mouth, I inwardly despised myself. Lu Qingwan, you really have a way with words. Chung Song didn't respond, he just glanced at me meaningfully and continued eating. The atmosphere turned somewhat silent. After all I'd said, why hadn't Chung Song given any indication? I felt disheartened and began to eat my rice, feeling a bit panicky inside. Chung Song introduced me to an excellent training class. For the first time, I discovered that I might actually have a talent for interior design. Even the teacher frequently praised me. After studying for a while, the teacher even handed me a project to design independently. If the client was satisfied upon completion, I would receive a bonus. I worked so hard that I barely had time for Chung Song, let alone the house. Eventually, my mother realized the family register was missing and called me angrily. I denied everything, even suggesting that maybe my brother had taken it to register for marriage with Chen Fong. My mother had to care for my dad and brother daily and couldn't find time to come to me. Moreover, I had never told them my address. I just mentioned that I was working in the city, and they couldn't find me. After finishing the project, the teacher awarded me 3,000 yuan as a bonus, holding my first earnings in nearly 10 years. I was thrilled. The next day, when Chung Song was off, I dragged him around the streets, wanting to buy him a gift. Embarrassingly, this was the first time I had ever initiated giving something to Chung Song. We walked shoulder to shoulder down the street. Passing by the hospital entrance, we noticed an unusual crowd. Chen Fong, you can't be so cruel. Chen Fong, Chen Fong. I tiptoed to see. Hey, isn't that Chen Fong's family and my parents? He's a chubby kid. You Lu family can't afford to support a daughter-in-law and grandson. We, the old Chen family, will take the loss. Once this child is gone, our families will have nothing more to do with each other. No marriages or relations. Chen Fong was dragged by her father towards the hospital entrance, her face streaked with tears. Lu Xiaoming, are you even a man? Think of something. Hearing that her grandson might be lost, my mother nearly went insane. She furiously cursed the Chen family for their black hearts, and after that, she berated my father for his incompetence. I watched with great interest. Chen Fong's parents' strategy of retreating in order to advance was really quite something. Hearing about the loss of their grandson, wouldn't my parents go crazy? They would probably do anything, even sell their blood or flesh, to raise money for my brother-in-laws. I have a way, my father suddenly exclaimed, grabbing Chen Fong's father. You know my daughter, right? Famous for her beauty far and wide, and she's educated too. I will go home and find her suitors right away. I don't care if they are old or lame, whoever offers the highest price, I will marry her off to them. Young guys don't have money, but there are definitely older men who would be willing to pay. Beautiful. So they weren't thinking of selling blood or flesh but of selling me. I turned around and walked away. If they wanted to sell me, they'd have to find me first, and besides, what era do they think we are living in? My father still thinks he's living in the old society. Worried, Chung Song kept glancing at me. Are you okay? I had long been disillusioned with my parents, though it was uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it was too hard to bear, but since Chung Song asked, I naturally had to show my heartache. Not just heartache, but heartbreak. Chung Song, I said, tears blurring my vision as I looked up, tears sliding down just at that moment. I have no home anymore. I am your home. Chung Song declared sternly and solemnly, like a soldier reciting an oath. Lu Qingwan, don't be afraid. From now on, I am your home. I started crying and then began to laugh, my tears flowing even more fiercely. I thought you didn't like me anymore. Chung Song frantically held my hand, as if he wanted to show me his heart. Lu Qingwan, I've liked you since I was 7 years old. My only dream in life is to marry you and give you a good life. I wiped my tears and looked up at Chung Song skeptically. Are you lying to me? Then dare you go with me to get a marriage license? When we came out of the Civil Affairs Bureau soon after, I was still dazed. Did we really get our marriage certificate that easily? Chung Song was even more bewildered than I was. He kept looking at the marriage certificate in his hand, closing his eyes tightly and then suddenly opening them again. after checking several times and seeing that the marriage certificate hadn't disappeared. He finally cracked a smile. As he smiled, Ching Song grew anxious again. I haven't given you a dowry, nor have I bought you a ring or a house, Lu Qingwan. Don't worry, we'll make up for it now. I placed my finger on his lips. I don't want those, Ching Song. I just want you. I stretched out my arm and placed my hand in Ching Song's palm. His palm was broad and rough. I gripped it tightly, as if I was holding on to my own happiness. Hand in hand, we returned home, and Ching Song began making calls. His parents had divorced when he was young and never looked after him, and his grandfather had passed away a few years earlier. Relatives considered him a burden, fearing that if they helped him a few times, he would cling to them, so they all kept their distance. For Ching Song, the friends he would meet later became his closest kin. Despite everything, at Ching Song's insistence, we still had 2 tables of banquet. None of our friends and relatives were present. It was probably the simplest wedding I've ever seen, yet, I felt incredibly happy. Instead of spending money on a lavish wedding, I thought it best to save it for buying some nice clothes for Ching Song and some comfortable furniture for our home. I finally became Ching Song's wife once again. We enjoyed an unabashedly blissful honeymoon period. Ching Song's colleagues joked that he seemed to be floating on air when he walked. Ching Song and I were very sweet together. However, my family was going through a tough time. In the city, my parents couldn't find me, and Chen Fang's situation was only getting more complicated as time dragged on. With no other options, Chen Fang's family reluctantly accepted the marriage but pressured my parents to increase the dowry to 328,000 yuan. All of our family's savings went to Chen Fang's dowry, and we even accrued considerable debt. In contrast, Chen Fang's dowry was just 3 quilts. Naturally, we had no chance of getting a house in the city. After marrying, Chen Fang had no choice but to live with my parents. My parents had to pay off debts, support their son and daughter-in-law, and would eventually need to support grandchildren. Life became very tight. They couldn't even afford to use oil for cooking. Ching Song and I successfully started an interior design company. Ching Song was serious and responsible at work, and my designs were innovative and trendy. Our company quickly established itself in the competitive interior design industry. One day, while I was drawing in the office, Ching Song entered with a peculiar look on his face, holding a cup of my favorite mango dessert drink. Guess who I saw? I saw your dad and your brother, hauling bricks. Your dad's hair has turned all white, and your brother has darkened a lot. I took a sip of my cold drink contentedly. You didn't let them see you, did you? Ching Song shook his head. My parents wanted to sell me to an old man for the dowry. He still held a grudge. I had changed my phone number a long time ago and deliberately avoided contacting anyone from the village. Over the years, we made more and more money, and we moved from a small 2-bedroom to a 160 square meter flat. At the beginning of the year, Ching Song and I went to visit his grandfather's grave. While driving to the city, a little boy stopped in front of our car, with his hands covered in mud. He knocked on our window. Lucky money, please. I stared at him carefully for a while before recognizing this dirty, ragged little boy as my nephew, Xiao Lei. Thinking of my nephew from my past life, who was always well-dressed and bragged to his classmates about his toys, I felt a mix of emotions. Perhaps, this was the life they were meant to lead. Without Ching Song's relentless efforts, this lazy and foolish family would have naturally ended up living this kind of life. I opened my wallet and handed him 100 yuan. Xiao Lei's eyes lit up. Beautiful auntie, congratulations on your fortune. Good luck. He clutched the money and ran off quickly, apparently heading to the village store. Let's go, Ah Song. Ching Song stepped on the gas, and soon, we left the small mountain village far behind. Story 2. I lost my legs while saving Sheniji. 3 years into our marriage, he allowed his friends and family to insult me. When I confronted him, he pressed his brow impatiently and said, "They're just stating the facts. At that time, I never begged you to save me. No one ever asked if I wanted to be saved." All the affection I had in my youth turned to ashes in that moment. That night, I mixed sleeping pills into his milk and, while he was deep asleep, I severed his legs. I fell asleep holding him as he screamed in pain. When I opened my eyes, I was back 3 years earlier. Before the accident. 1. Sheniji is really something. Sticking with a cripple for 3 years, bro, you don't get it. Maybe Iji has some weird fetish, this cripple in bed. Heh, if you ask me, Jiang he is too crafty, trapping Iji for life with 1 leg. Laughter echoed from the private room at the hotel, and I stood outside, clenching my fists. When the laughter stopped, Shiniji's deep voice could be heard. Enough is enough. Someone feigned surprise. No way, you didn't really fall for that cripple, did you? After a pause. I heard the words, how could that be possible? What I mean is, I don't have any special fetishes. Dealing with a cripple every day is annoying. If it weren't for 3 years ago, sister-in-law, what are you doing here? The door to the room opened, and all eyes turned to me, mocking, sympathetic, but not surprised. Shiniji looked momentarily flustered and guilty. He strode towards me, his tone full of blame. Don't you know your own situation? What are you doing here? Sitting in my wheelchair, I faced him and silently raised my phone. You told me to come an hour earlier. Shiniji had sent me a message saying he was drunk and asked me to pick him up. I was pushed into the room by Shiniji, who sighed with his eyes closed. Are you happy now? The men who had just mocked me raised their hands laughing. Sorry, sister-in-law. We were just joking. Wanted to see how much you care about Iji. They said the message was sent using Shiniji's phone by them. Just to prove how much I loved him. Their disdain was unmistakable. I looked at Shiniji blankly. He seemed to have known all along. I didn't know you would really come. He saw through my thoughts and pressed his brow helplessly. Think about it. Even if I was drunk, any friend could have driven me home. What could you do by coming here? I followed his gaze to my legs. What could I do? Probably just rush out in a wheelchair after receiving the message. Troubling the taxi driver to lift me into the car. Thinking back, I was really foolish, eager to be their joke. Since there's nothing wrong, I'll go back first. I lowered my head and wheeled away, but someone stuck out a foot to stop me. Jianghe, don't rush off. It's not right to leave without having a drink. Someone handed me a drink, but I'm allergic to alcohol. I looked at Shiniji again, but he chose to remain silent. Facing a room full of spectators, I silently took the drink. Haha. Truly Jiang, holy shit, he gasped in surprise because I threw the drink in his face. You damn cripple. What are you doing? Ah, I switched on the wheelchair's electric mode and mercilessly ran over the foot that blocked my way. Behind me was a chorus of curses, but I ignored them and thoughtfully closed the door of the private room for them. 2. Shiniji caught up with me, showering me with accusations. Jianghe, don't be too much. They are all my friends. He reached out to pull me back. But I stopped him. They are your friends, but I'm your wife. Do you not see when your wife is being insulted and do nothing? Shiniji pressed his lips together, a subconscious gesture that showed he knew he was at fault but was unwilling to admit it. Suddenly, I felt it was all so meaningless. I wheeled myself towards the front door. It was only when I reached the doorway that he caught up to me again. They just speak without thinking. But what they said was true. I had no interest in Shiniji's lame excuses. Rubbing my moist eyes forcefully, I tried to keep my voice calm. Let's get a divorce. Shiniji was stunned, immediately objecting. No, I can't divorce you. Puzzled, I looked at him. Why not? I had heard it with my own ears. He said he didn't like me. I used to deceive myself, thinking that although his friends didn't really accept me, his love was enough for me. Hearing those words today made me realize how foolish I had been. The evening breeze was chilly. Shiniji took off his jacket and draped it over my legs. It's my fault. Those were just drunken, nonsensical words. Don't believe them. Anyway, we're not getting a divorce, alright. Wrapped in Shiniji's mint-scented presence, I couldn't hold back my tears. He pushed my wheelchair down the bustling street. I'll take you home. As he pushed me leisurely along the night street, he seemed lost in thought, not even noticing a pothole in front of us. After I voiced a warning and he apologized, silence fell again. I hesitated before speaking. I want you to know, if it's a burden, if you don't love me, we can get a divorce. I had loved Shiniji for 10 years, but that didn't mean I'd cling to him desperately. Shiniji sounded unhappy. I've told you. We're not getting a divorce, Xiaohe. I closed my eyes and stopped talking, memories flooding back. 3 years ago, the moment the laboratory ceiling collapsed, I instinctively pushed Shiniji out of the way. I saved him but got hit myself, losing consciousness. That day, I had planned to confess my feelings to him, to conclude my 7 years of unrequited love. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was Shiniji's red eyes. Jianghe, are you out of your mind? Who asked you to meddle? I tried to speak, but my throat was hoarsely dry. I wanted to tell him it was okay because I liked him and it was my way of repaying the kindness of the Shin family. My parents died when I was very young, and without the Shin family's help, I would have had a tough life. Trying to get out of bed to pour myself a glass of water, I realized I couldn't feel my legs. Guilt flooded Shiniji's eyes even more. He took my hand. From now on, I'll be your legs, Jianghe, let's get married. I must admit, At that moment, happiness overwhelmed me. Okay, Shinji, I've actually liked you for 7 years. Shinji tightly held my hand and said nothing, and I unconsciously ignored the reluctance in his eyes. In the morning, Shinji had already left. There was a glass of warm milk he had left for me on the bedside table. I've been busy at the company recently, don't wait for me for dinner. I took a sip of the milk, it was sweet. I've never liked drinking sweet milk. The clattering noise outside the door was followed by a loud shout, "Sister-in-law, good morning." It was Xinyi's cousin. I sighed deeply, thinking this was truly a big problem. Xinyu Yan affectionately wrapped her arm around me, her eyes full of sarcasm. "Sister-in-law, you really know how to cause trouble for my brother." At yesterday's gathering, there were several important contacts my brother needed to win over. Your outburst really ruined him. What should we do now, sister-in-law? I looked at Xinyu Yan calmly. You can tell Xinyi to divorce me. After the rush of happiness faded, I could sometimes feel Xinyi's helplessness. He always kept a certain distance from me. His friends weren't like that with me at first. I understand that they were only speaking the words Xinyi couldn't. So, I've said more than once that if it's because of a life-saving grace, there's no need for it. We could get a divorce. But he always refused. Xinyu Yan scoffed. You don't think that my brother refuses to divorce you because he likes you, do you? She forcibly pulled me into a wheelchair, and I struggled helplessly. What could a cripple resist? She chuckled in my ear. Come on, let me show you something interesting. The interesting thing Xinyu Yan referred to was Xinyi intimately dating another girl, through the glass window of the couple's restaurant. I saw Xinyi tenderly adjusting a stray hair from the girl's forehead. The love in his eyes was nearly overflowing. Xinyu Yan pursed her lips. See that? That's the person my brother really likes. I didn't understand. Then why doesn't he divorce me? It's not me who is clinging on, Xinyu Yan angrily said. Isn't it because you took it upon yourself to use your life-saving favor to blackmail my brother? If he divorces you, what would he become? An ungrateful person. You pretend to be generous. But isn't this all your own scheming? I don't understand why everyone thinks my saving Xinyi was a ploy. I lost my legs, but he lost his freedom. The people inside were too focused to notice me outside the window. I laughed and wheeled closer, gently tapping on the glass. Xinyu Yan didn't expect me to do that. Her face stiffened. What are you doing? It's funny, it was she who brought me here, yet she only allowed me to watch and then suffer in silence. She was too late to stop me, and the two inside noticed us. Shock, panic. Xinyi quickly appeared in front of me. Jianghe, let me explain. He didn't know what to say, and glared at Xinyu Yan. Who let you bring her here? Xinyu Yan pouted unhappily. I feel sorry for the real sister-in-law, especially since you two have been in love for years. I stood there dumbfounded. In love for years. But before I tried to confess, I had indirectly asked Xinyi if he had a girlfriend. He said no. Otherwise I wouldn't have mustered the courage. Jianghe, you go home first. Xinyi scolded Xinyu Yan, then called a car for me. Wait, I raised my hand to stop him. I want to talk to that lady inside. Jianghe, Xinyi frowned, clearly displeased. I gently pulled his hand. You'd better listen to me. Otherwise, I don't mind shouting about catching a mistress in public. I'm disabled, and I've seen too many strange looks over the years. I'm immune. The only ones who will be embarrassed are you. Xinyi's frown deepened, but he must care about the person inside. And the next second, he pushed me into the restaurant. Is this your wife? The one who saved you back then? The girl seemed to know me. She propped her head with one hand and smiled at me. Hello, my name is Lin Suisui, Yiji's first love. She behaved like the others, showing no malice toward me, yet it was all malicious. Yiji, why don't you take your cousin to sit over there? I'd like to have a chat with Miss Jiang, with just a few words. She took control of the situation. Xinyi and Xinyu Yan sat not far away, looking over at us with worried eyes. Miss Jiang, Lin Suisui leisurely stirred her coffee. You know, if it wasn't for you, I would have been the one marrying Yiji. I didn't know, I told her. I've never seen you in his circle. I had no idea he had a first love. Lin Suisui looked up, her eyes somewhat resentful. We were in a secret relationship because of my family background. Yiji said his family would never agree. Only Yuyan supported us quietly. We were in this secret relationship for 2 whole years, ready to confront our families about it before the accident happened, unfortunately. You came into the picture. No wonder Xinyu Yan hated me so much when she found out I was going to marry Xinyi. But how could that be my fault? I asked him more than once if he had a girlfriend. He chose to hide it, and after the earthquake, he chose to marry me. Lin Suisui seemed to guess my thoughts and chuckled lightly. Are you curious why he insisted on marrying you? I looked up at her. My intuition telling me that the answer would not be pleasant. Because he found your secret diary of unrequited love, Jiang-hee. Lin Sue's tone was bitter as she spoke. He didn't find it earlier or later, but just after you lost your legs and were unconscious, in front of the Shin family elders, and you say it wasn't intentional, Miss Jiang. My mind went blank. So he had read my diary. Shinji initially pretended not to have seen it, but Shin's aunt saw it first. The elders meant well, I was raised in their eyes. And the Shen and Jiang families had been old friends for many years, so that day, Shin's aunt asked him, "Do you like Jiang-hee?" She thought, if both had feelings, it wouldn't be bad for them to be together. Unexpectedly, Shinji thought it was pressure from the elders. I will marry her. He gave up Lin Sui under what he perceived as pressure and married me. So that was it. I thought about how I had excitedly opened my heart when I learned Shinji was going to marry me. It felt like a joke. He could divorce me now. But he hasn't. That's what I couldn't understand. Lin Sui showed a mocking smile. Because you are useful. Iji is at a critical period for a promotion. How would it look if it got out that he abandoned his lifesaver? Miss Jiang, you've already put him in a difficult position once. Don't make it hard for him a second time. Such scheming. Who knows if the death of your parents was retribution? I couldn't hold back. I threw the coffee in her face. She could say anything she wanted, but she should never have brought up my deceased parents. Jiang-hee, what are you doing? Shinji quickly shielded Lin Sui in front of him. I pointed at her. She insulted my parents. Lin Sui was in a sorry state, tears spinning in her eyes. I didn't. I was just explaining our past to her. It was her. Shinji looked at me angrily. Apologize. I stared at them for a long while. She laughed. Okay. Before I apologize, can I say something to you? Shinji didn't speak, which meant he agreed. Come closer. I'll only tell this to you. He walked over and slightly bent down. Slap. I slapped him with all my strength. Let's get a divorce. Shinji's face turned utterly dark. Jiang-hee, I've told you, we can't get divorced. So it's about preserving your own face and reputation. But this time, I'm not willing to compromise myself for his sake. Then wait for the lawsuit. I turned my wheelchair to leave, but was forcefully pulled away from it. I was thrown to the ground. Shinji's eyes blood red. Divorce. Who would want you when you're a cripple? I looked at him incredulously, unable to believe these were his words. Was I born a cripple? Shinji was annoyed. Yes, you are my savior because you saved me. Please, was I begging you to save me? Did anyone ask if I wanted to? I would rather be the one disabled. Do you know how much guilt this has caused me? How much have I lost because of this grace? Do you know? He lamented the pressure he felt owing me his life. I wish you hadn't saved me. I stared at him blankly, a faint stench wafting in the air. Under the immense humiliation, I lost control. Seeing this, Shinji quickly carried me back to the wheelchair. Look at yourself. What can you do without me now? He looked at me with disdain and covered me with his jacket. I'll take you back. You need to calm down. Shinji called a car for me, driven by a plump middle-aged woman. He had instructed her in advance, giving her a little extra tip to help me back upon arrival. Perhaps sensing my poor mood, before leaving, she gave me an encouraging gesture. Girl, there's still hope in life. She probably thought I might consider suicide, but I won't, because just half an hour ago, I received a message from a stranger. It was a screenshot of a chat. Bro Shen. Your wife is determined to divorce you. It seems you can't maintain the devoted husband act with President Gu anymore. But no worries, if one path is blocked, we can take another. Do you remember President Chi I mentioned before? He loves playing with disabled people. Jiang-hee fits perfectly. Since she's divorcing you anyway, you can use this chance to catch her cheating. That way, you won't have to bear the stigma of abandoning your lifesaver. Tomorrow night at 9. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. He said a lot, and Shinji's reply of okay left me completely hopeless. So cruel, blaming me for saving him, pressuring him, and still squeezing the last bit of value out of me to pave his way. I don't know who sent me this message, but whoever it was, I need to thank them. Xiaohe, I'm back. Shinji returned, drunk as a lord. He staggered over and squatted in front of me. I'm sorry. I was a jerk during the day. Can we not divorce, please? I looked at him calmly, showing a gentle smile. Okay, really, I nodded, handing him a cup of hot milk. About today, I was also at fault. Drink this milk, sober up. I booked tickets for the Maldives for tomorrow. Shall we go on a trip together? Shinji first panicked, then became bewildered. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Alright, I smiled as I handed him the milk and watched him drink it. The drug acted quickly, and Shinji collapsed to the ground unconscious as I expected. It's indeed troublesome when someone can't walk anymore. It took me a whole 2 hours to sever Shinji's legs. He woke up halfway through, and his frantic screaming forced me to stop and stuff a towel into his mouth. He shook his head wildly. I quickly reassured him, "It's okay, I won't kill you, I just need your legs. After all, you don't really care for them, so why not give them to me?" He made a whimpering sound, probably begging for mercy. I pasted the chat log onto his face, and he finally quieted down, left only with pain and despair. As dawn broke, I finally managed to chop off his legs, and my knife was dulled. Shinji passed out and woke up several times. After I finished, I removed the towel from his mouth, and he was barely breathing. "Jiang, never mind." I stuffed it back in. I didn't want to listen. I realized too late that my life was ruined the moment I lost my legs. Since he wanted to destroy me completely, I had to destroy him first. I lit the charcoal in the room and fell asleep holding the sobbing man. It was good, at the moment of awakening, to remove a beast with a human face from this world. I didn't expect that I could still open my eyes. The numbness in my legs made me widen my eyes in shock. I was reborn. Back to before the accident happened. I jumped up suddenly, startling everyone else in the lab. "Junior sister, are you okay?" I stared at my legs and responded perfunctorily. I was back in my second year of grad school. Initially, to get closer to Shinji, I chose the same major as him and even managed to join the same group, but then that accident made me give up my studies. Feeling the strength in my feet, I trembled with excitement. It was May 8th, 1:27 p.m. 10 minutes before the ceiling would loosen and fall. In the past, I had pushed Shinji aside to save him, but ended up getting crushed by the ceiling myself. "Jiang-hee, what's wrong?" A pair of large hands touched my forehead. It was Shinji. "Do you have a fever? Do you need me to help you take a leave?" I instinctively avoided his hand, and there was a hurt look in his eyes. Our strange behavior caught the attention of others. Are the little couple fighting, usually? I always followed Shinji around, and since he neither accepted nor rejected me, everyone joked and called us the little couple. "No, he has a girlfriend now. I have nothing to do with him," I quickly denied, feeling unlucky to be involved with Shinji in this lifetime. Seeing how quickly I refused and even mentioned his secret girlfriend, Shinji was slightly stunned. He lowered his voice. "Jiang-hee, is there some misunderstanding between us?" I looked at him and suddenly understood the weirdness between us. At this moment, Shinji did have a girlfriend, yet he was still ambiguous with me, even unwilling to admit it now that I had pointed it out. Was he looking for a thrilling romance while not wanting to give up the benefits of my affection for him? So the person I had liked from the beginning was rotten. "Be careful," a shout interrupted my thoughts. The ceiling started to fall just like in my previous life, with Shinji right in the center of it, and I was just on the edge of the falling ceiling. In my previous life, I had pushed Shinji out of the way without regard for myself. This life, I quickly ran away from the danger. "Xiaohe," Shinji incredulously called out to me. The next second, the ceiling came crashing down, and after a cry of alarm, Shinji passed out of a sense of duty. I still called emergency services for Shinji. The doctor said that Shinji's legs were ruined, and from now on, he would be confined to a wheelchair. I barely managed to suppress my laughter. "Jiang-hee, why didn't you save me?" When Shinji awoke, his voice was hoarse and tearful, as if I had betrayed him. "You could have pushed me away." I tilted my head and said, "Shinji, stop pretending. I know you're back too. Before we got married, Shinji never called me Xiaohe, and just now, he was asking why I didn't save him." Caught in his act, Shinji's face turned red. He had planned to stand on moral high ground to induce my guilt. I sat next to him and gently patted his leg. "Shinji, your legs are useless now. Do you remember what you told me in our past life? Was it me who begged you to save me? Did anyone ask if I was willing? I would have rather been the one disabled." I smiled at him. "You didn't want to, right? Well, congratulations, you got your wish. You don't have to feel guilty because of me. Now you've just lost your legs, but you can live openly, without forcing yourself to carry unnecessary burdens." Shinji was stunned, his face a mix of colors as if a palette had been overturned. "Jiang-hee, how did I never realize you were crazy? Can't you tell when someone is just venting?" His expression matched exactly how he arrogantly claimed he didn't need my rescue in our past life. If I saved him, he blamed me. If I didn't, he still blamed me. I couldn't hold back my anger and slapped him. Knowing I'm crazy and still talking back, want to get your legs chopped off again. Hearing my words, Shinji suddenly shuddered. Too many things had happened in quick succession, and he had almost forgotten how he had died tragically in his past life. I was out of my mind. I've always disliked women like you. It's better not to be forcibly tied down in this life. He was struggling to regain his dignity. 10 minutes later, Aunt Shin arrived, looking exhausted. Iji. Uncle Shin couldn't come back from a business trip abroad, leaving her to bear this terrible news alone. Auntie, don't be too sad, at least he's still alive. Being alive is what matters. I offered her symbolic comfort. In our past life, she wasn't particularly bad to me, but neither was she very good. Before I married Shinji, she truly treated me like a daughter. After we were married, she did genuinely feel sorry for me. But that sympathy couldn't withstand the passage of time and her own son's size. So, when Shinji's cousin bullied me, she chose to turn a blind eye. Jiang-hee, be careful with your words, Shinji said anxiously. He didn't want Aunt Shin to worry, but now he couldn't even turn over by himself. Xiaohe, his father and I are busy. Thank you for taking care of Iji. Aunt Shin sobbed, holding my hand. I know you have feelings for Iji, given the current situation. She broke down crying again. I understood her concerns. She was worried no one would want Shinji, just as she had worried about me back then. I spoke openly. Auntie, I only see Shinji as a brother. Besides, Shinji already has a girlfriend. Aunt Shin looked incredulously at Shinji. Is what Xiaohe said true? Shinji pursed his lips tightly. He hadn't planned to reveal this so soon, but I had forced his hand. I thoughtfully added, I've already notified her to come. I don't want to be the third party who breaks up a relationship. I hope you understand. As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Suisui, dressed in white, appeared at the door. Her reaction was very similar to Aunt Shin's, shocked and crying. Aunt Shin had seen Lin Suisui before and didn't really like the girl, thinking her family background, having 2 older sisters and a younger brother, was not a match for her son, given the current circumstances. Aunt Shin couldn't say much more and excused herself to go buy food. Iji, the sight of Lin Suisui, her eyes red from crying, was particularly pitiful, but Shinji avoided looking at her. Jiang-hee, you shouldn't have called her here, with me like this. How can I? He couldn't continue as the bedsheet showed a light yellow stain spreading. Lin Suisui instinctively took a step back, a hint of disgust in her eyes. Shinji caught this reaction, and it was a blow to his pride. Jiang-hee, he pleaded with me with his eyes. I was unmoved. What are you thinking? You can't possibly expect me to handle this. Your girlfriend is here. Is this appropriate? After scolding Shinji, I turned to Lin Suisui. Miss Lin, I've heard bits about your love story. If love means a lifetime together, then you should start learning how to care for someone with disabilities now, under my urging and moral coercion. Lin Suisui struggled to help Shinji up. The bathroom door slammed shut, and I didn't miss the resentful look on Lin Suisui's face. I smiled, recalling when I faced adversity. They were indulging in their lofty, unattainable romance, separated by circumstances, under the pressure of dating. I've heard bits about your love story. If love means a lifetime together, then you should start learning how to care for someone with disabilities now, under my urging and moral coercion. Lin Suisui struggled to help Shinji up. The bathroom door slammed shut, and I didn't miss the resentful look on Lin Suisui's face. I smiled, recalling when I faced adversity. They were indulging in their lofty, unattainable romance, separated by circumstances, under the pressure of daily life. Could they remain as steadfast? After briefly explaining things to Aunt Shin, I left. Shinji had his mother and his girlfriend. He certainly didn't need me, an outsider, to interfere. I resumed my normal life, attending classes, free to walk and run as I pleased. The long-lost sense of freedom was intoxicating. I heard that Shinji, stubborn as ever, was diligently undergoing rehabilitation every day, but to no avail. Aunt Shin contacted me every now and then, her words laced with dissatisfaction towards Lin Suisui. Essentially, she was not as caring or attentive to Shinji as I had been. Shinji wanted to reach out to me, but unfortunately, I had blocked all his contacts. 3 months later, while dining with my fellow students, I unexpectedly ran into Shinji and his group. Lin Suisui was pushing Shinji's wheelchair, both of their faces looking grim. Lin Suisui was busy scolding Shinji, unaware of my presence. What are you doing here as a cripple? Isn't that embarrassing? Her tone of disdain starkly contrasted the gentle demeanor she used to show. It's no wonder Lin Suisui lost her temper. I had discreetly learned that the romantic love Shin Iji thought they shared was a long-planned scheme by Lin Suisui. Coming from a poor family, she hoped to change her fate by marrying a man with a wealthy background and not too much intellect. Shin Iji had appeared at just the right time, but unfortunately, he had been intercepted by me in his previous life. As for this life, feeling despised, Shin Iji's face turned red. If I don't come, how would I know what you and your friends say about me? Lin Suisui scoffed. That you're a cripple, a man who's no good anymore. Are they wrong? Look at yourself. I even have to help you use the bathroom. What else are you good for? If it weren't for getting away from that family, who would want to be with a cripple like you? Shin Iji trembled. What are you saying? Lin Suisui ignored his murderous gaze. If I had known how troublesome it is to care for a cripple, I would have chosen a different target from the start. Shin Iji roared. Let's get a divorce. It's good that the wedding hasn't happened yet. It turned out they were already legally married. It seemed Aunt Shin knew her son's situation too well and no longer allowed him to be choosy. Lin Suisui punched him without any courtesy. Divorce? Do you think I don't want that? Serving you for 3 months almost made me sick. If it weren't for your damn mother, do you think I'd willingly marry you? Once the demure facade was removed, she showed her true, fierce colors. Yet, such a person is a perfect match for Shin Iji. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, and they finally noticed me. Seeing me, Lin Suisui quickly dismissed Shin Iji like a hot potato. Perfect timing. Take your brother away. Originally, when Shin Iji and Lin Suisui were secretly dating, he always introduced me as his sister. Lin Suisui glanced coldly at Shin Iji. I'm going back to the party. Don't cause me any more trouble. Lin Suisui walked away without looking back, leaving me and Shin Iji face to face. What he's experiencing now is exactly what I went through back then. Shin Iji, do you remember what your friends used to say about me? Shin Iji turned his head away, his body trembling imperceptibly. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I cut him off. You knew everything. It's just that you didn't care because it wasn't happening to you. Come on, don't be upset. If you ask me, Lin Suisui is actually quite decent to you. She just scolds you a bit. She didn't hand you over to some old man with peculiar tastes, right? I meant to comfort him, but his face turned paler. No, Xiaohe, listen to me. I didn't mean to really hurt you. I had everything arranged. I had scented incense burning in the room in advance. He would have passed out before he could touch you, and the next day you just had to pretend. He was frantically explaining until he saw my icy, piercing gaze. Actually, by that time I had already started to fall for you. Slap. I slapped him with all my might, feeling that one slap wasn't enough. I hit him several more times. Jianghe, Shin Iji was shocked and angry, but now he couldn't fight back. I held back my anger. How dare you talk about love? Sending me to another man is love. Letting your friends insult me is love. Cheating is love. You don't love me. You just realized that your first love doesn't care about you anymore since you're disabled, and all you wanted was someone who is completely devoted to you. Do you think someone as selfish as you deserves to talk about love? From that day on, Shin Iji never came looking for me again. My days became more carefree, and occasionally when people mentioned Shin Iji, they said he was not doing well. I heard Lin Suisui was decent to Shin Iji in front of Aunt Shin, but behind his back, she did nothing but beat and scold him. I guess Shin Iji must really love Lin Suisui to endure such treatment without a word. Shin Yuyan called me a few times, treating me like a confidant. That Lin Suisui, I used to think she was kind and gentle, but she turned out to be so malicious. Jianghe, it would have been great if you had married my cousin. I just laughed. Don't talk nonsense. Shin Iji and I are like siblings. On the other end of the phone, Shin Yuyan pouted. You're not really siblings. Aunt just took care of you for a few years. You're not even on the same family register. Jianghe, why don't you disrupt the marriage? It's set for the beginning of next month. Hearing her say this, my eyelids twitched. In a moment of clarity, I remembered that before my marriage to Shin Iji, Shin Yuyan hadn't been so malicious toward me. After I married Shin Iji, she suddenly changed, becoming closer to Lin Suisui instead. Now that Lin Suisui was marrying Shin Iji, could it be, seemingly casual? I asked. Yuyan, you don't happen to like. Before I could finish, she repeatedly denied over the phone. How could that be? How could I possibly like my cousin? After a long silence, Shin Yuyan hesitantly said, well, maybe a little, but he's my direct cousin. It definitely can't happen. So I want to find a good sister-in-law for my cousin. Jianghe, won't you really consider my brother? I smiled, brushing off the question as I saved the recording. I'll be there." Shin Yuanyan let out an excited cheer. A month later, I showed up at the wedding venue. When I arrived at the wedding, Shiniji was being pushed out by Lin Suesu to greet the guests. Feeling humiliated, Shiniji gritted his teeth. "Did you really have to bring me along?" Lin Suesu slapped the back of his head. "Shut up or I'll rip your mouth apart." Their relationship had deteriorated to this extent. It was only thanks to Aunt Shin's desire to torment Lin Suesu that they were still getting married. When Shiniji was well, she would never have allowed someone of Lin Suesu's background near her son, but now that Shiniji was disabled, no well-matched family wanted their daughter to marry him. Aunt Shin initially preferred me as her daughter-in-law, but a few months ago, Shiniji was determined to be with Lin Suesu, and she couldn't ask me to take over anymore. Lin Suesu's family loved money, right? Aunt Shin simply gave them 300,000 in one go to buy Lin Suesu. After taking the money, her family happily handed over Lin Suesu's household registration book. Initially, Lin Suesu, motivated by money, was willing to care for Shiniji. Only after being tricked into marriage did she realize she was sold to the Shin family. And Aunt Shin wouldn't give her a penny more. Divorce, don't even think about it. Isn't it a love that shakes the heavens? Then lock it down. Shiniji saw me. He looked at me from afar, his gaze lingering on my legs, showing longing. Aunt Shin never showed up. It was a blatant slap in the face to Lin Suesu, but I didn't understand. Had the Shin family also given up on Shiniji? Sitting at the relatives' table, Shin Yuanyan saw me and quietly gave me an okay sign. This was her plan. In the middle of the wedding, she planned to reveal all the moments Shiniji and I shared over the years. According to her, Shiniji had feelings for me, and he would surely regret and possibly cancel the wedding publicly when the time came. This way, not only could the wedding be disrupted, but Lin Suesu's face could also be slapped hard. However, she conveniently omitted that this would also put me in an embarrassing situation. Her calculations were too loud, and I had to quietly make a few adjustments. "Hey, isn't this Shiniji's little follower?" A familiar voice. I turned around and saw his brother, who used to make things difficult for me, by Shiniji's side. "Look at that gaze. Still can't forget the disabled. Huh, you don't have some special fetish, do you?" His words were frivolous, disrespecting both me and Shiniji. "If Zhou Hao doesn't want to eat this meal, then get out." Shiniji appeared beside me at some point, rebuking his former brother. Zhou Hao looked at us contemptuously. "You still think you are someone, seeing you disabled? I pity you. Let me tell you, your dad has already brought your 12-year-old half-brother home." I was surprised to hear that the Shin family still had an illegitimate child. It seemed that Uncle Shin had given up on Shiniji, and as for Aunt Shin, never mind. "Zhou Hao, get out." Shiniji was on the verge of rage, but unfortunately, he couldn't stand up to hit him. Instead of leaving, Zhou Hao casually sat down. "Get out, Shiniji, what are you causing now?" Lin Suesu came over and kicked Shiniji's disabled leg angrily. "Aren't I embarrassed enough today?" Lin Suesu then started hitting and scolding Shiniji. "Forget it, sister-in-law. Give some face to young Master Shin in public." Zhou Hao laughed loudly. "Besides, an old lover is here," he said, turning his gaze towards me. I didn't want to create a scene now, but Zhou Hao was just too despicable. In this life as he was in the last, I grabbed a bottle of red wine from the table and splashed it at him, warning him in his stunned gaze. "How you insult Shiniji is your business, but keep your mouth clean about me. Otherwise, I don't mind exposing all the shady things you've done behind the scenes to the Shin family. Take for example, President Lin's preferences. In my past life, Zhou Hao loved to introduce various types of girls to those executives with deviant tastes. President Lin was one of those favors he found for Shini. When I mentioned President Lin, Zhou Hao instantly became as docile as a quail. "Xiaohe," Xinyi's voice choked as he called out to me. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know how hard life would be after becoming disabled." His confession was suddenly interrupted by the big screen turning on. I saw Shin Yuanyan stand up excitedly. 23, Jianghe. "Why don't you go and stop the wedding? It's set for early next month." "Yuanyan, you wouldn't like." "How could I possibly like my cousin?" "Okay, it's a bit, but he's my cousin. It's definitely impossible. That's why I want to find a good sister-in-law for my cousin." Though no images were shown on the screen, my conversation with Shin Yuanyan was clearly heard by everyone. The already chaotic wedding became even more disorderly. Shin Yuanyan screamed for the playback to be stopped, and Lin Suisui stepped forward aggressively and started hitting her. She was cursing loudly, and several people couldn't stop her. I couldn't help but marvel. Indeed, How could a girl raised in a rural family with a preference for sons over daughters be a delicate flower? Thinking back to our conversation in the restaurant, how tranquil and content she appeared, it all seemed so ironic to me. I quietly left the scene amidst the chaos, with Shinyi's calls echoing behind me. 24. I heard about what happened next from others, after Shin Yuanyan's disgraceful intentions were exposed. Her parents confronted her brother in a huge argument. They believed it must have been something Shinyi did that led Shin Yuanyan to develop inappropriate feelings. Already disappointed in Shinyi, Uncle Shin completely gave up on him. Even Aunt Shin reluctantly abandoned her own son. Thankfully the mother of his illegitimate child had passed away. They could just treat him as their own son and nurture the relationship. Lin Suisui was on the verge of madness, her reputation destroyed. And known as a shrew, she wanted a divorce, but the Shin family wasn't going to let her go. They blamed her for ruining their son. If it weren't for her seducing Shinyi, he and I would have been a couple. Given my feelings for Shinyi, how could I not have saved him in that accident? If anyone had to lose a leg, let it be me, and let Shinyi marry me. Such an opportunity for good publicity was naturally welcomed by the Shin family. Their scheming was meticulous. And my last shred of sympathy for the Shin family vanished. 25. Half a year later, Shinyi committed suicide. Before dying, he took Lin Suisui with him. It was said that Lin Suisui had connected with Zhou Hao, who quietly introduced Shinyi to some old men with peculiar tastes. Afterwards, when Shinyi woke up, he completely lost his mind. He cried admitting his mistakes, saying he had been blinded back then, while cursing Lin Suisui to a terrible fate. In his delirium, he spoke of changing time once more. Determined to choose Jianghe this time, he hired someone to sneak into his house and replace Lin Suisui's usual health supplements with sleeping pills. While Lin Suisui was asleep, he set the house on fire, burning himself and her together. 26. After Shinyi's death,